Hey guys, welcome, good to see you, and thanks very much for being with us tonight for Global Action Day as part of We Make events and the creative performance protests that are part of a huge global movement right now to listen to people in the event industry, not just here in the Midlands where we're based tonight, but right around the world as we come together to highlight the frankly dire state that the pandemic has left the events and the creative industry in, and maybe even just urge government to improve the support package that has been offered to help these industries survive. Tonight you're going to hear about a load of the campaigns that are aiming to help around 1 million people who are part of the UK events industry and creative industries who've all been hit so hard recently at a combined cost of almost £80 billion. More on that later on. Tonight, in amongst all the chats we're going to have about the situation, about different people's stories, maybe about your stories, and about what's going on right now and what maybe we'd like to see done, we're going to mix things up a little bit with some live performances as well from some great local talent who are part of the whole situation right now and, quite frankly, desperate to perform for you, because we've all just been doing it in our bedrooms and lounges so far. So what about an audience with people like you at home right now? Remember, you can show your support any time. You'll have noticed probably on social media today the hashtag #WeMakeEvents or hashtag Creative Performance Protests. Use that on any of your social media tonight, and wherever you can, however you can, turn something red. You'll see loads of different landmarks, loads of different places, and indeed our studios here tonight, lit up in red. And that is kind of the unified symbol that shows you're supporting the movement that we're trying to get going tonight. You can even do it on your phone. I think on some iPhones, you can download an app called My Light Flashlight, which you can then turn your phone red. And that may be all you need to do, and show us you standing up with your red phone. We'd love to see that. Look, there are loads of ways you can get in touch. Obviously, leaving comments on the YouTube or the Facebook feed is the best way to tell us your stories, your experiences. We'd love to hear all about that as we go through tonight. But I'm not going to ramble on anymore. Let's have a little live performance, shall we? We talk about the event industry needing a miraculous recovery. Well, we've got someone with us tonight who's got his own experience about making miraculous recoveries, but we'll talk more about that in a bit. I'm going to ask him to get up for us and sing first off. This is a gentleman who's got an incredible story and knows a lot of people who've been through a lot in the last 18 months or so. But before those stories, a little bit of music from Mr. Bill Black. Bill, good to see you.
Cheers, Rich. Good evening. How you doing, mate?
Give us some tunes.
Good evening, everyone. So, I don't want to make a big speech just yet. I'm going to say this. Music kept me alive. I'll tell you why at the right time. So, little song I wrote. On a warm summer night in a field of dreams, the devil came to play. He brought a badass gift on a set of wheels. I should have rolled away. Got real close when we lit the stars. the clean supply. I hit it hard, I needed some more. Addiction comes in many ways, and they're all damn hard to fight. You became my summer snow, you were pure but not pure white. Said you'd be trouble, well I guess they just didn't see. I was looking for trouble, and it's still right back at me. Habit of a lifetime, hell, that can be so bad. I'd stay high on your taste for a lifetime, you wouldn't let me. I'd stay high on your taste for a lifetime, you wouldn't let me. Candy coats hid your bitterness, to me you always tasted right. Dine on you for 1,000 days, and you starved me for 1,000 nights. Paid for you in a million ways to get me high, but you left me blue. I hoped you'd find the devil in me, but I just found the bitter in you. Comes in many ways, and they're all so hard to fight. You became my summer snow, you were pure but not pure white. Said you'd be trouble, well I guess they just didn't see. I was looking for trouble, and it's still right back at me. You were looking for trouble, and it rolled right up to me. We were looking for trouble, well I guess this was meant to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Round of applause, please, for Bill, everybody. Even though there's 5 or 6 of us here, that's enough for me.
Just like playing the Philadelphia Bowl.
So look, Bill, let's learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
Stay there. Let's learn a little bit more about you then, and what brought you to be standing on stages in around, well, all sorts of places, playing guitar.
Yeah, really simple. I've been a fanatical music fan, like many other people, for 45 years. Hid away the fact that I was in the closet musically, wanted to be a singer. And then, unfortunately, a couple of years ago, I had a massive stroke, and it took away my eyesight, left me all but blind, and crushed my world, really. And during that time, I had 2 choices. Decide not to go on, or do something about it. I found inspiration through music. So 2 or 3 years ago, picked up a guitar, taught myself to play, taught myself to sing. And good or bad as it is, I'm now a gigging musician, having hidden it for 45 years. But that's the story. The real important part of this is literally music kept me alive. Music stopped me getting into dark places when I was pretty blind. So I'm now here, one eye doesn't work. And I've never been so inspired. So literally, government, if you're listening, here's my little political moment. Governments all over the world, you're going to kill music. Just be careful how many people you might actually be killing, other than financial. That's my political statement finished.
It's a strong message. It's a strong message, mate, and one that is going to be echoed by so many people who are watching us tonight, thinking about everything they were involved with up until March, which then, for so many people, nosedived and stopped with no real sign of when things might come back. I mean, you'll have worked with, I'm sure, loads of people who work at gigs behind the scenes, the ones who work in the shadows, the ones that none of us see, none of us know about, but are so essential to these things going ahead. What do you know about what it's been like for them?
Yeah, I've over the last 2 or 3 years going around the music circuit, two things that I've discovered. Musicians get a huge amount of pleasure for being up front, but there's probably fivefold amount of people behind the scenes who make all these things happen. And their lives have been devastated because there's people selling tickets, selling ice cream, selling merch, opening pubs, opening gigs. It's all gone. And it is devastating people that I've come to know in the last 2 or 3 years. And these are people I've known for 40 years, 50 years, in other walks of life. Mm-hmm. There's a massive amount of enthusiasm off stage, if you like, away from the theatre stage, away from the music stage, away from the TV and radio presenting. Shed loads of people, lots and lots of highly capable, committed people. They've just all been devastated. Mm-hmm. And I see it, I hear it. I'm trying to help them. I offer some solace where I can.
I suppose coming from your point of view as well, it's quite interesting for those people to be able to hear that story like yours. Yeah. Music turning things round, music giving you a little bit of hope. Yeah. Are you seeing anything giving those friends of yours a little bit of hope at the minute?
That's a really good question. And the fact is, quite the opposite. I think for 3, 4, 5 months maybe, we had a little bit of hope that at some point these circumstances would change. And then they began to change. We began to talk about getting theatres open, getting cinemas open, get pubs open. You know, tons and tons of music performances on in pubs. And then completely out of the blue, when all the infrastructure gets restarted, they make another snap decision to start shutting it down, closing hours, mask protocols, etc., etc. And I get it that somebody somewhere says that should happen, but the consequences of these immediate decisions are quite devastating. And again, politically, we can challenge it a little bit. We've got to ask ourselves, is the economic crush directly proportionate to the true impact of what's happening now?
Interesting stuff to think on. Well, your opinions obviously matter so much tonight. The social media handles, #WeMakeEvents, also #CreativePerformanceProtest is where you can just search and see a lot of stuff that's been going on, not just today, not just yesterday with the protests that happened in London, but over the last few months as well. And you'll really see the size of the industry that's coming together and the size of the industry that needs help as well. Bill, have you got another song?
I've only got another song if it's not original material, so I don't know where we stand on that.
Do you know what? Tonight is about throwing it together and doing it whatever.
Yeah.
So, go on.
If the world don't mind.
The world will never mind. The world will never mind.
Unfortunately, I'm not a prolific songwriter. So the song I just sang was called Addiction, and it's the only song I've ever written, and it's only the second time I've played it. So forgive me. I'll sing another song, but it will be somebody else's.
We'll let you off. We'll let you off. Yeah, no, fantastic.
So let's just play something that's fairly common. Here's a song called Tennessee Whiskey. Tennessee whiskey, Tennessee whiskey. You're smooth, Tennessee whiskey, Tennessee whiskey, Tennessee whiskey.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, man. Thanks for being with us tonight. Thanks for telling your story.
Indeed.
And here's to seeing you back on a stage somewhere soon, or even if it's from a front room somewhere, sharing a bit of music, sharing your story.
Bit of Zoom.
Bit of Zoom's great. Bill Black, everyone. Thanks, Bill.
Keep it live.
Thanks, mate. So yeah, tonight is about a few different things, really. It's about performances from people like Bill. It's about Bill's stories about the people that Bill knows and Bill's worked with in the industry for many years, and just how the situation's affected them. And it's been well documented, but let's just remind ourselves a bit of the financial impact of this whole thing, because back in March, it would have been the story for a lot of people that perhaps their year was looking good, money coming into their business was looking really good through live events, through all sorts of different things. And then suddenly that just nosedived out of nowhere. And there are some shocking statistics and numbers about the amount of money that this has cost the UK economy. This has cost the events industry. We mentioned about 1 million people in the UK work in the events industry in some capacity or another. Those people that Bill mentioned who work behind the scenes, the people we call them in the shadows. There are 5 or 6 of them around here right now that are doing those exact things that you don't see, but are about making what happens tonight. So, any second now, I want to show you some of the stats, some of the money that's involved, some of the real numbers that are quite staggering to read. So these are the different sectors that have all estimated just how much the pandemic has cost them so far. Conferences and meetings, we've all probably at some point been to those where something's been set up on a bigger scale than just catching up with people in the staff room over a cup of tea. And those big conferences and meetings that come together, estimating that they've lost somewhere around £18.3 billion. Exhibitions and trade fairs happening regularly, especially in the Midlands, with places like the NEC, which sees so many different shows, weekend after weekend, big shows, different trades, different exhibits, all sorts packed in there. And exhibitions and trade fairs not happening has racked up a huge £11 billion gap in the economy. Incentive travel, people selling those sorts of things and involved in that whole industry, 1.2 billion. Corporate outdoor events. If you work for a big company, you surely at some point been to one of those where everyone gets together for a bit of team building. If you played the giant table football, or you've been zorbing with people, or you've done a bit of go-karting, all of that counts as part of this tonight. And they've lost £0.7 billion. Arts and cultural events, a huge, huge hole in this whole thing. £5.6 billion. Festivals, fairs and shows. In Worcester, where I live, they just had to cancel the iconic Christmas fair, which, to be honest, I don't know whether it will be Christmas without it being on. And just the cost of the people involved in putting all of those stalls up, all the people who steward it, all the security staff, all of those people who are holding the background, loses so much money. £6 billion, staggering. Music events, Bill will tell you all about that. Not being at any of those, none of those being able to happen, 17.6 billion. Sporting events, something that I'm regularly involved in, football, rugby, all big here in the Midlands and across the country, and all of which have had to go ahead without fans being allowed in, all stopped for a certain period of time. £9.6 billion. And weddings, the wedding industry. So many people work in the background of that. So many different people are involved in that, from wedding planners to the people who make all the things that you use at weddings, the people who make all the fabrics, the people who do the flowers, all of those people. Look at the cost, 14 billion. It comes up to the event value and direct spend of 84 billion pounds. It's a huge, huge hole. It's a lot of money. And somewhere, at some point, We're really hoping as part of these events tonight, the things that have been happening around the world and in the UK, that someone somewhere will take notice of that amount of money, because that is affecting a lot of people's livelihoods and their welfares, their mental health and their families. Now, I'm inviting you to be in touch tonight through all sorts of ways. Drop your comments on the YouTube channel or on the Facebook feed, wherever you're watching it. If you've got stories you'd like to be in touch, I think we can speak to someone on the phone right now, hopefully. Oh, I'll drop a video first. Okay, all right, well, come back with us in a little while. We'll have a few more people getting in touch, but in the meantime, take a look at this for a little bit more about what tonight is all about.
One, go.
Hi there, Norman aka Dapper Rapper here with my open letter to the government. Dear government, I hope you're well. Do you like the arts? Because I can't tell. When you walk along the South Bank, what do you see? A people's paradise for art or wasted property? You and your gang, you don't need to furlough. Making a fortune as you swig the Merlot. You say you act in good faith, but something's smelling fishy when the poor get poorer and the rich get rishy. Dear government, I hope you're well. Do you like the arts? I just can't tell. You could have bunged a few quid to the RSC. Instead, the money in your bucket went to KFC. It's like you don't really care about the arts of our nation, because your real line managers, the banks, the corporations. I got a hunch. Now, look, I'm not being funny, but seems sometimes all you really care about is power and money. Dear government, I hope you're well. Do you like the arts? I still can't tell. It's called Department of Digital Media, Culture and Sport, but it feels like the arts are being sold short. You've dented health and education, perhaps it's the turn of the arts. Your stats for wrecking all you touch are way off the charts. I swear, if the forces of darkness ever held a meeting, they'd vote your gift to make a shambles as truly world-beating. Dear government, do do you actually exist? Or have the zombies taken over in a third act twist? Because you're saying Global Britain is simply the best, but to the rest of us it feels more like Namari Celeste. That's all for now. I hope I state my case clearly. P.S. Praying for a miracle. And I mean that. Yours sincerely.
It began in Wuhan when a man ate a bat. Can you believe that?
It sounds a bit nutty.
The cause of corona, an infected bat butty.
I thought it was soup. So now our nation is in isolation.
Transfixed by Netflix and PE with Joe Wicks.
But the big question that everyone's asking,
Did the bat get the bug from that bitch Carol Baskin?
and while we may end up extinct like T-Rex,
It is such a relief to not talk about Brexit.
or any topic that leaves us divided,
Just for a moment,
we're a nation united.
and though we sit idle,
All tired and chubby,
our future less certain,
than Carol killing her hobby,
at least we're together.
or playing our part,
Just don't be a dick.
and have a picnic in the park. Don't be a dick.
No picnic.
When you feel like you got nothing left, hold on to your hope, there's better days ahead. We'll get our lives back. So you're not in this all alone, and we can beat this, we're standing strong. Together we stand as one, with nothing in our hearts but love. We know that this is gonna be tough, so just remember, together we stand as one. 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 Together we stand as one.
So yeah, the WeMakeEvents.com website is a really useful place if you're just finding out a little bit about the movement, I suppose, that it is. Then just have a look at it. You'll see everything that's been happening so far about supporting the events industry, supporting the creative industries after what's been a horrendous time for so many of them in so many different ways. For some, they're still sitting at home waiting for their first bit of work to go back to. I've got to be honest, this is the first time I've done anything under bright lights for a little while. We kind of forgot a little bit about what it feels like. That's how we're kind of throwing things together for you tonight. You, of course, are really important in this. We're going to be hearing from a few people who are watching us soon, who are part of this soon. You can always chuck your comments in on YouTube and Facebook just to let us know who you are, what you do, what you did do, what you'd love to get back to doing again. We'd love to hear from it. And amongst all of that, we've got performances for you tonight. We had Bill Black earlier on. You just saw a little bit of Malcolm Jennings as well. Malcolm, thanks for sending that. And you saw loads of other performances, and we have loads more spattered across the night. They will literally just pop up out of nowhere, just so you know. Be ready. That's what it's all going to be about. Right, now we're back here on stage with me. Being on stage, even just saying we're on stage doing stuff is great. So this is Gemma. Hi, Gemma.
Hello.
Gemma's ready to play a bit of violin for us. She's got poetry to do for us and all that kind of stuff. But just before you perform, Gemma, just tell us a little bit about how you've been affected and what things have been like for you.
Well, before lockdown, I was a teacher of violin and piano in a premises. unfortunately the premises was too small to maintain the sort of 2 metre rules and social distancing. So the teachers had to go online at that point, which was quite a big journey for me because I've never ever really taught online before. So had to learn quite a lot of things quickly.
Yeah.
But it's been fun, and you know, I've tried to embrace it. But I was beginning to think a few weeks ago, a bit like what Bill said, that you know, we'd be getting back to some face-to-face teaching and be able to see the lovely children's eyes again, and you know, hear them and feel them in the room, and all of that musical energy. And it has, to a certain extent, a little bit of that's happened. But now with the new restrictions, there's more uncertainty and worry, and quite a few have gone back to online.
Yeah.
And you know, it can happen online, but it isn't the same, and it's hard for the children to imagine why we're playing music when they're not surrounded by it in the same way as perhaps they would have been a year ago.
I suppose you ask anyone who's either this side of the stage or that side of the stage, who's done the virtual stuff like you have, they'll say, yeah, it fills a hole, doesn't it? It helps get a little bit of that back. But you're right, the difference in feeling is still there. You can't hide that difference, can you, between the performance and just being online?
No, the novelty wears off, I think.
Yeah. But not right now, though. No. Well, not
not.
right now, because this is going to be the first time I've ever introduced someone who's going to play a bit of an Irish jig for us. So there's definitely a load of novelty in it for me. So first off, give us a bit of a blast on the violin. Show us what you got. Lovely. Thank you, Gemma. Round of applause. Anyone who's got a free pair of hands, please. Thank you. I was about to jump up. I felt like I had to get out of my seat then and start stamping on the ground and doing all that kind of stuff. It's starting to turn one of those raucous late night pub things, which, God, can't even have any of them at the moment either, can we? So how, you said about adapting to the online thing a little bit before. How long do you think it took you? Have you yet fully adapted to doing it online?
I have fully adapted, but I suppose it can't really adapt to you. I've adapted, I'm human, I'm real, I breathe, and the children do, and the pupils, but the technology, you know, it's brilliant, it's exciting, they love it, but that, I don't know what the word is, you know, that energy of being in the room with your pupil and your teacher to hear, and the resonance of the violin, you know, the splendour of the piano, it doesn't quite, and you can't go near them and sort of help or smile in a way that encourages them quite online, because there's all the sort of wires, and you know, it's just it's a different experience. And children, particularly children, you know, they do get quite overwhelmed by technology. So when they're playing, because it's a big deal. So for them, they've had to adapt as well, you know, and they do it brilliantly. But you know, it'd be nice to be able to say, well, you know, I used to play in an orchestra, for example. We don't rehearse anymore, so I can't say to my parents, you know, I play in the local orchestra, because at the moment I don't, and I can't say I do some open mics with, say, Beale or whoever, because I have played with Beale in a pub scene. I can't say that, and there's no life behind the thing, and that's what's a shame. And I think, you know, it's good that we're doing this to kind of resurrect the memory of that, even if it isn't reality at the moment.
Now, you're going a bit multi-talented on us tonight, because 1 minute you're on the violin, the next minute there's poetry, which I'm all for throwing that in the mix tonight. So give us a bit of that. I'd love to hear a bit of that, just because as much as tonight's about music, you know, tonight is about supporting the people behind events. It's also about supporting those creative industries who, without any outlets at the minute, really need a voice or somewhere where they can just come and let off a little bit of steam in front of people, with actual people. I mean, we're obviously all kind of like 2 meters apart in here, but even though, you know, you can feel like we've got people in here, like the 3 or 4 of us that are in here doing this at the minute. So, yeah. And here you are, that technology shows.
It's on my phone, obviously.
Poems on the phone,
It's
obviously.
not on pen and
Did you?
paper.
Is it emailed to yourself? Was it done on notes out of a moment of inspiration?
Well, do you know what happened was I had a poem sent to me by a child from a friend.
No way.
And it inspired me, and I just started tapping away on my note thing on here and thought, you know, can't find a pen as a teacher anyway. And even more so now.
You can't, no.
And I typed it on there, and I thought, why not share it with my followers, so to speak, of which there aren't that many, but anyway.
Hey, doesn't matter.
So it's here, and it's called Confined to Online.
Take it away.
Confined to online, I fiddle with wires. Confined to online, I imagine fires. Confined to online, I click and expand. Confined to online, I succumb to broadband. Confined to online, I repeat instructions. Confined to online, I calculate deductions. Confined to online, we try to connect. Confined to online, we fail to reflect. Confined to online, we brave face to face. Released into homes, I COVID assess the place. Whichever way it happens, it all feels locked in. Whichever way it happens, the death is within.
Thank you, Gemma. Lovely. Woof. Whoa. Bit of power behind that, isn't there? Now, look, I'm going to get a little bit more personal now, because we were just talking about all the different things that have been affected this year. We were just going through the figures and some of the industries that have affected. The wedding industry has been affected massively, and you know about that firsthand. Tell us about that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Go on.
supposed to be getting married this year, so it's not happening.
It's
obviously.
not. No. So how did the timeline all pan out? Was this? Did you have to
November
cancel?
was the month.
Oh, okay. So what? Maybe back in March time, did you kind of still think, oh, maybe it may still
Yes,
go ahead?
yes.
When did you have to cancel then?
I started telling members of my family around sort of May, June sort of time when yeah. I know, and I've thought about, you know, small wedding and all of that, but really, you know, I've got quite a lot of musicians and actors and artists and singers in my family, and what normally happens at weddings is that we all play music together and dance. You know,
What a bash!
So yeah.
You can't really sort of constrain that, can you? You can't really say to everyone, no, we'll just have one of you, and then how do you even choose?
Exactly. So unfortunately, the music and the health of everybody and the country is more important than that. So just got to hunker down and get on with it.
Well, fair play to you for having that attitude, because it must have been a hard decision. And I suppose, is it that hope that when you do actually do it, you know, it's going to be one of those, we're all back together, we're all doing this again. It's the hope of what that'll be like.
Until we're through this nightmare, and so that people can genuinely celebrate rather than being scared, which is not a good feeling for anyone to be in. And a lot of people are quite honestly scared. And as Bill was saying, you know, please listen to the musicians. We know how it feels to be excluded, and if you exclude the musicians, what is there apart from the arts for the children at the moment? You know, it's a frightening world for them, and they matter.
It's a really good point. Gemma, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the violin. Thank you for the poetry. If anything else suddenly comes to you out of inspiration, then just jump back on and start playing. It's fine. It's
Nice
great.
one.
Thanks,
Thank
Gemma. Yes. Okay, now you might have missed it earlier on. We were just going through some of the things on the screen about the kind of things that We Make Events, #We Make Events, are campaigning about, have been over the last few months. There's a few different things that maybe one of these is particularly something of interest to you, or would be something you'd want to throw your support behind for whatever reason. You can get in touch and let us know at any point. Comments in the Facebook feed, on YouTube, who you are, what you do, what you'd love to see. There are sort of 5 things to tell you about, really, that We Make Events specifically are looking to, are asking for, lobbying for, I suppose, at the minute. Grants, not loans, being made available to businesses in the event supply chain, and that supply chain part of it is really key, not just the people at the front and the side of it, not just the hosts like me or the performers like Gemma and Beale, but the people behind the scenes and everyone involved in that side of it. An extension to the furlough scheme, which may be trickier than it sounds, but there may be a way. We Make Events certainly think that there's a way of extending the furlough scheme and adapting it so it can apply to the events industry as a whole. And then an extension of the self-employed support scheme, which again could be tailored towards the industry itself. Would that be something that you think is the right answer? Is that something that you think should be lobbied for? Insurance for live events, complete with a COVID clause that just helps promoters and event organisers should a show or an event be cancelled because of a local lockdown. Those of you keeping a tab on things today will have seen Matt Hancock today announced that in future all lockdowns, national or maybe even larger local ones, will be voted for by MPs rather than just pushed through. So the idea there that a local lockdown might suddenly affect an event you have been able to get booked, you have been able to be a part of, and then suddenly 2 months later, even though there isn't that national lockdown, a local lockdown affects that event for you. What an idea that would be, that particular insurance clause covering an event cancelled due to a local lockdown. And fifth and finally, the idea is to allow event organisers to do mass testing on behalf of the UK government to give a 72-hour passport for events. A sort of medical passport, I know, is something that's been spoken a lot about in sport recently. Maybe you're involved at a sports club, small or large, somewhere around the Midlands where we're based, or further afield. What have you heard? What do you think would work? Would that passport scheme work? Would it be easy to employ that and impose that at fixtures, say, at football, rugby? Would it be able to happen on a grand scale? Do you think it's the way forward? Let us know what you think. Get in touch, YouTube or Facebook, either of those. You can find comments there and let us know. If you search hashtag We Make Events on social media as well, you'll see loads of things that have been happening recently. You'll see people have been up to all sorts of stuff. There have been protests. You'll see a peaceful, well-structured protest that happened in London yesterday. We'll show you some pictures of that a little bit later on as well. We're going to go to the phone now. Hopefully we've got a guest lined up to chat to us at the minute, which will be Becky Humphreys. If Becky Humphreys is knocking around, then Becky might be able to speak to us. Becky, can you hear me?
Not very well, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay. I'll speak up and be as clear as I can. I'm an event host, so if I can't dictate well to you, then we're all lost a little bit, really, aren't we? Becky, thank you for being there. Just explain a little bit about what it is you do and where.
Yep, so I'm the head of communications at the NEC group in Birmingham.
NEC, we was just somewhere we were mentioning earlier actually about the number of different exhibitions and trade fairs that you guys host there. What's the situation been like for you over the last few months then?
To be honest, it's been pretty dire for us. We've been almost a zero revenue business since March. We've been, obviously, during that time, we went through the phase of rescheduling events to then cancelling them. So a lot of our event activity has been completely wiped out for this year. So yeah, it's not been a very good time for us as a business, and it's something we have an economic value for the region of about 3 billion in a standard year, and that's not obviously been achieved this year. So it's absolutely vital that we take part in days like today to kind of raise the voice of the industry and kind of get our plea and our current plight known.
And what sort of conversations have you had to have with sort of suppliers and people in the event supply chain? What's it been like?
I couldn't hear the question properly. I'm assuming it was something about suppliers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we're in constant communications with our organisers, our customers and the general supply chain. Because obviously this is affecting absolutely everybody involved in live events. It's not just some of the big venues like us, it's everybody from the local hotels, taxi companies, it's our organisers and everybody that exhibits at the NEC group. We're keeping in constant communications with people as much as we possibly can.
What was your reaction when it sort of became quite clear that there wasn't going to be the help that I suppose we all assumed there would be for the industry?
In all honesty, it was quite disappointing for us. We always knew the 1st of October for the trade exhibitions and conferences was a conditional date. However, it was very disappointing to hear that it could be another 6 months or so at least before we're trading again. Now, to be honest, even 6 months, it's sounding quite unlikely at the moment, purely because, everybody who's involved in We Make events, we all know that it takes a number of months to get some of these events and shows off the ground. It's very, very disappointing. So we desperately need some additional sector-specific support.
Can you just explain a little bit for people who maybe aren't aware, just the time frame in getting events on and therefore with these restrictions coming in and then looking like they were lifting, then going back down, how much of that planning is affected?
Oh, the planning is completely blown out of the water with this. It depends on the event type. You could be talking a minimum of 3 months or so, absolute minimum, to get an exhibition off the ground. Because obviously we need that time to get the exhibitors in, and the organisers need to sort all the advertising, sponsorship, etc. So there's a massive, massive big supply chain behind the scenes that's completely affected by this. I would normally say an absolute minimum of 3 months, but to be honest, it can be a lot more than that, a lot more.
And you mentioned we kind of find ourselves in the season, I suppose, for events. A lot of things happen all year round, but these months leading up to Christmas, just how big an impact is it going to have for you?
Major. September through to December, it's kind of our primary event season before Christmas, and then obviously January through to April, it's like the second wave of event season. So for in terms of the exhibition side of things, and arena side of things. So it's had a major impact. Obviously, we've been preparing for a resumption date for October, and that hasn't happened. So it's kind of brought on a lot of major challenges, not only for the group but the whole event supply chain.
And how about you? How have you dealt with it, and how have you managed to keep yourself sane, if you have?
To be honest, I think I've been one of the lucky ones that I've been working throughout this, because of the nature of my job. To be honest, work is just keeping me going, because I've had a lot going on in terms of obviously press requests. We had the Nightingale Open at the beginning, April time. So we had all that going on as well. So to be honest, all this, it hasn't really registered too much personally with me yet, because I just haven't had time, and to be honest, I don't want to think about the consequences too much. It's on a personal level.
No, it's a very, very good point. So what we've seen as a result of the movement at the moment, We Make events, creative performance, protests. What do you think has to happen on top of this at the moment to change things?
So as I said before, I think it's the case of us getting this sector-specific support. And we've outlined the kind of support that we want at an NEC group level on our website. If anyone wants to check that out, it's at necgroup.co.uk. So we've got 3 main priorities that we're looking for, 3 main requests on behalf of the NEC group, which includes the proven track and trace programme. We need the targeted financial support, and we need a commitment to a review of our opening criteria. That's it in short. But obviously for the wider events industry, we want to make sure that, those independents are getting their grants and things, because at the end of the day, if our event supply chain can't happen, and, everybody loses business, then we lose the business as well. So it's mutually beneficial. This is why we're all gathering today, to make this collective voice hopefully heard by governments across the world, not just the UK.
And are we going to see anything red in and around the NEC or anything around there?
What was the question again? Sorry.
Is there anything going to be turning red in and around the NEC as part of tonight?
Certainly, yeah, certainly is. So I'll be heading over to the NEC in a little while, and we'll be getting everything ready for an 8 o'clock turn on. But obviously, because we're trying to save costs at the moment, that is literally going to be for a limited time, just to show our support for the cause. And we're also going to be doing it over at the ICC as well, which is our city centre venue, one of those over there. And obviously all our other venues as well. Our arenas have been supporting on their social channels, as well as our Vox Conference Centre as well.
Great. Becky, thanks so much for your time tonight. We'll let you get ready to go off and make that happen tonight, because it will be an incredible thing to see.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Becky Humphreys, who's at the NEC Group, speaking to us tonight about exactly how they've been affected, their huge supply chain, about all the different things that happen up there at the moment, and just how things could hopefully change for them and everyone else watching tonight. You can leave your comments and your thoughts, remember, either via the Facebook feed or the YouTube feed. And we'll be back soon with a few more performances and some other bits and bobs.
In it, and the music stopped.
What, why?
Excuse me, the music stopped. Could we just
We have an audience to perform to.
What do you mean there are no techies?
What do you mean there's no audience?
Oh,
As our lockless lockdown looks start growing,
It would appear dear Cummings isn't going.
and while we wouldn't judge him ever,
Dick and Dom do
go together. But while Dom's deeds have caused divorce,
Bojo won't throw him under the bus.
when Corona's back to just being a beer,
Will it be Dom who dominates this year?
or will we think of the carers the claps were for?
Or the laps that had us wanting more?
Yes, Captain Tom should be our pick.
To define this time, not to dominate.
And while it's still a long road ahead
Just for now, let's think instead.
of the acts of kindness far and wide,
Don't let Dominica sense of pride.
when we've left COVID behind,
Please don't drive.
if you think you're blind,
When you feel like you got nothing left, hold on to your hope, there's better days ahead. We'll get our lives back. See, you're not in this all alone, and we can beat this, we're standing strong. Together we stand as one, with nothing in our hearts but love. We know that this is gonna be tough, so just remember, together we stand as one. 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 Together
Hey guys, welcome back, or if you're just joining us, hi. Welcome along to tonight's live stream. All about tonight's We Make events, demonstrations, a global day, the events industry coming together and lobbying for more support after what has been a dire few months where the industry and the people involved in it have been near on decimated. Real big thank you to Cameron, Jacob Foster with Amy Good, who gave us that last little video. People have been sending videos to us of performances of them, of artists, just being able to perform and do something for us tonight. So appreciate it if you send some of those in tonight. And we'll have some more live performances here tonight as well. We're just meeting some of the talent that is around and desperately wants to get back to work, but right now can't. So the best thing we can do is bring it to you and showcase it for you tonight. So more of that a little bit later on. This here is a little bit more about the amount of money that has basically evaporated or gone missing, not been there for these different industries who all contribute a huge amount to the industry as a whole. So some of the numbers there are just staggering. We're just speaking to Becky from the NEC group, and the fact that those exhibitions and trade fairs bringing around £11 billion. Now she was saying that the NEC and ICC and places like that contribute around £3 billion, so that's quite a hefty chunk considering that £11 billion represents the whole of the UK. It's an astonishing figure, and it's some of those are the numbers that display how much support really is needed. Sporting events, again, one of the big contributors, £9.6 billion. The people I know who work at sporting events up and down the country, I know a lot of people who work as, for example, stadium announcers at football grounds, who before March were standing there every week, standing on the touchline or up in a booth somewhere in the stadium, on the mic as the teams walked out, getting the crowd to roar. Obviously, without crowds, it's a bit of a pointless job at the minute, and we know maybe away from the Premier League, but certainly at lower levels of the football pyramid, sport is facing a really uncertain future, and clubs themselves desperate to find ways to survive. So some packages have been muted, some ideas have been muted, but you can see how much might be required. If you look how much has been lost for the sporting industry, £9.6 billion. And we were talking to Gemma earlier about weddings, £14 billion lost, not there, gone in the wedding industry, and everyone who supports that. So a little bit about tonight is finding out about the people who are watching, the people who are joining us tonight, or however you might be taking part in what's going on today, standing as one, representing the events industry, and just trying to show exactly what you do, what you love to get back to doing, and what you miss most at the moment. There's nothing wrong with sharing that, I don't think. You'll find if you've been tucked away worrying about things yourself for such a long time, just sharing what you miss with other people helps a little bit. It might not resolve things entirely, it might not get a shed load of bookings up for the next few months, but the feeling that you're not alone in this is very useful and very powerful, so don't ignore it. Now, we talked earlier on about some of the people who are taking part in the creative performance protests, which is another arm of what tonight is all about. The people who are involved in those industries that aren't necessarily the technical side or the front side and all that kind of stuff, but creative and arts industry specifically, who form a huge part of the UK culture. They're campaigning as well for immediate government support and in all sorts of aid in things like a furlough style support scheme, sustained financial support packages. That current plan for the £1.57 billion in government relief just won't see any of the venues who've applied for support at the moment, even successfully applied to the support schemes, receive anything until next month, until October. Excuse me. And for some, that's 6 months without anything coming in at the moment. It really does continue to paint that picture about what else needs to change. And making those things accessible as well is really important, because not everyone is able to just stand around and take that cash, and even if they can, distributing it is really hard as well. So there are all sorts of things to consider tonight. And a timeline is something else that the creative industries guys are really calling for. A sort of timeline for reopening. You might have seen it talked about as being called Operation Sleeping Beauty, which I think is a great name, by the way. But Mr. Dowden's Department of Culture, Media and Sports Secretary has been speaking a lot recently of his confidence of wanting theatres to be fully open by Christmas. I'm not sure how long ago he said that compared to the announcements we've had this week, but it does paint a nice little dream idea that things could be back open and trading by Christmas. But theatre and production companies need assurances to commit to doing the work and preparing. I mean, those of us people who work in the pantomime industry, how are you feeling at the moment with the thought that there probably won't be Christmas pantomimes this year? If you just said to the screen, oh no, there won't, then take a break. But seriously, so many people would want to start on the basis of Operation Sleeping Beauty, which you see a sort of a timeline explained for the staggering of things opening. But now there won't be any news on that till November. So unless there's a 6-person pantomime that can happen with everyone standing 1 metre apart for the whole thing, don't know if we can get there. It's a real shame. I think the call is for the government to provide a timeline for intentions of reopening different places and different venues. We'd want it to be in a COVID secure manner, of course, so hopefully things like that can happen. I think, and it's a good point, that merely throwing dates at the industry and theatres wanting to be fully open and wanting things to happen has maybe cast a little bit of false hope recently. If you've experienced that, get in touch and tell us. There is no problem whatsoever in sharing those tonight. In fact, you'll probably see on Twitter, if you use the hashtag #WeMakeEvents, you'll probably see people who've got the same kind of stories to tell at the minute. And there's nothing wrong with sharing yours as well and the experiences you've had. Even it goes right back to those points in March where things suddenly dropped off a cliff, like they did for me and all the events I was due to be part of, sports events, business events, speaking events for people where I'd come in and then introduce the speaker and there'd be 100 people sat in a room enjoying a bit of lunch and then hearing from someone from the world of sport, the world of entertainment, the world of music, all of those kind of things gone. Literally in the space of 24 hours. And if they didn't get called off in the space of 24 hours, it wasn't too long until the phone call or the email or the WhatsApp message came to say, yeah, don't think we're going to be able to go ahead. And more importantly, don't know if we're going to be able to reschedule, at what point, when, who knows. So many things up in the air at the minute. I think everyone tonight is showing their appreciation for that feeling of not knowing what's coming up. However, one thing I do know about something coming up, which is a great feeling in itself, is Kirk Brandon, who's performing for us on stage in a tick. He's the voice of Spear and Destiny, Theatre of Hate and Dead Men Walking. What an intro. Whole idea about tonight is to bring you loads of different live performances, a few other bits and bobs to see as well. Like you saw earlier on with Amy and Cameron, you'll get random performances out of nowhere, and we like that. We want to provide as many of those as possible. Loads of people have sent those in to us, as they have done over the last few months, and we'll share with them as many as possible as we go through till about 8:30 tonight. Kirk, how close to being ready are you? In a performance stage, not anything else to do with it.
Always ready.
Good, love to hear that. Now look, I want to hear a little bit about this title I have in front of me here. So step on up and just tell us a bit about being the voice of Spear of Destiny, Theatre of Hate and Dead Men Walking.
Yep.
Explain a bit of that, go on. Have I put you on the spot with that
Easy
one?
enough.
Yeah.
Theatre of Hate was a band I started in 1980. It only lasted about 18 months. And then we had Spear of Destiny, which was carried on and on and on until today. It's like a vehicle for my songwriting, if you like.
Okay.
But the guy's been with me like 25 years plus, so it's
long time in the
rocking
industry.
band,
yeah. And it's the phrase of the moment, but just how odd or unprecedented has what's happened now been compared to all the years you've been in the industry?
Well, we were doing in excess of 200 gigs a year, touring the UK, the States, and some in Europe, and at some point in February, end. That's it, the end. And the earliest they're talking about even considering it is the other side of February. So, is it February? No, March. It's March. So, April the 1st, the world isn't going to come spring back into action. It's going to take, even if it did happen then, it's still going to take 6-8 months to actually start the machine rolling again. So I mean, I'm trying to be optimistic, but if you were being pessimistic, you'd say this is a kind of a clueless situation.
Well, look, I want to kind of space things out a little bit with a bit more chat about you and everything you've done up to now. But you ready to give us a number, give us a song, and then we'll come back and have another chat. Is that cool?
I'll just check out this.
I was going to say, we need to check everything works and sounds good, and you're happy.
Hello.
Yeah.
Could you take the guitar down, please? Up a touch, just a bit.
My guitar.
Okay, yeah.
Sounds good.
Good enough.
Take it away, Kurt. Go on.
I'm leaving on the 5 train. Don't ask me when I'm coming back again. I reckon it's only a matter of time before the Lord kick in the door. Mother, I'm running out of change. They had to phone to let you know. They'll never take me alive. They'll never take me alive. Mother, I killed someone. It wasn't that I hated him. You see, he was trying to stop me, but he found out I got away. They'll never take me alive. They'll never take. I can't tell you how I feel. Maybe you don't wanna know. Maybe. But anyway, I love you so. They'll never take me alive. They'll never take me alive.
Cheers, Kurt. Brilliant. So tell us, yeah, thank you. Sorry, I should have. Look at this, I'm slacking already and forgetting to get the applause going here. So tell us a little bit about your background and your musical story.
Background, just some lad from London who played the guitar and was very lucky enough to make a career out of it, or a life out of it rather. And I don't know, I just feel for everybody that in the arts, the actors, I've got actors friends, musicians, everybody, and this has kind of cut their whole world off. Or as a friend of mine put it, if you don't go out there and earn money, money doesn't come through the door. It's as simple as that. And I think that is the black and white of it. And as an industry, we're ignored, totally ignored.
Those people that you spoke to, how have they had to adapt? Have they had to change what they're doing? Have they had to come out of the industry temporarily? How has it affected some of them?
They've all gone down a pub.
And then had to go home at 10?
Yeah, then they go home at 10, yeah. Well, it's just wiped their lives out. It's just the end. You know, cut to the credits. The end. Finito. But, you know, we live in hope, and I really hope that it all comes back one day and the arts restarts.
I like that. And this whole movement at the moment has got obviously a lot of momentum with venues we're seeing everywhere turning red tonight and supporting that whole idea that everyone comes together as one, everyone comes together to stand as one and make this collective noise to say we can't be ignored anymore because, like you say, lives are being affected.
Yeah, they're taken down. And I always think of, musicians and actors, people like that, they're like a triangle, like a pyramid. There's a guy at the top. Behind it is his wife, his kids, his dependents, whatever you want to call it. There's all these triangles of all these people out there, and you knock the guy out at the top, you knock everybody else out. Everyone else is going to have a hard time. Money, if you like, to be basic about it. But that's what it is, yeah.
Too right. Well, look, we're going to have another performance review in just a tick, so don't go too far. I'm going to knock the... Well, we could, yes, we can. Oh, we can if we want. Do you want to do us another song? We've got all sorts going on. There are people on phones. There are people watching at home at the minute. I think we'd like another song,
Another song?
Yeah, I think so. Just to hear something else that you've got for us.
I only know one.
If you want, I could jump to someone we got on the phone, go and everything, and come back. How about that?
Yeah, do that.
Ace. Good set. All right, well, in that case, we'll go to the phones. Delighted to speak to somebody now, a chap called James Clutterbuck. Now, James runs a company called Barclay Red, have all sorts of different events going on, or had all sorts of different events going on, I suppose, is the way to put it, James. And James, you're one of the people I saw posting quite emotively on LinkedIn about today and what it involves and everything. First of all, James, can you hear me? You all right?
I can barely hear you.
Okay.
I think that...
Don't worry, I've just about got you. I'll speak up and be as clear as I can. Just tell us a little bit about what it was you posted on LinkedIn and why you said it.
Yeah, I mean, it's tonight is the Light It Up Red Day in the events industry. So all of the major venues around the UK and around the world, actually, anything from the Royal Albert Hall to Wembley Stadium, all the way through to smaller venues, are basically using all their lights and making their buildings red to make a statement that it's basically a red alert for the events industry, with obviously all the COVID restrictions that have been in place for the last 6 months, and now we're probably looking at another 6 months where events can't.
Oh. Well, look at that. One call drops out, another one steps right in. It's like step into the void once again. Saving us, Kirk. So look, we'll get James back when we can as soon as possible. And now your moment comes a little bit early. So pop in. Kirk, once again, let's have a little bit more music. Thanks, mate.
Just like clockwork, the cavemen arrived. his space. He turned in a pumpkin man. Something, it died that night. Something died, but someone was born. And out in the limelight, everybody's having fun. And out in Western Central, everybody's having fun. And now in the limelight, everybody's having fun. And out in Western Central, everybody's having fun. And out in the limelight, everybody's having fun. And out in Western Central, everybody's sure having Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. What have you done then with your time? Because we talk about, you said everything in February just kind of disappeared, that was it. You might not see anything again properly until March next year. What have you done with your time?
I've been trying to be useful. We did an album online.
Okay.
We re-recorded an old album called World Service, which we did on a major in 1985, 1986. And so we did the whole album. And I did it in a big studio with just me and a drummer. And everyone else did it online. Some of the guys are in America, and you know, all the stuff came down line. And that's how we kind of did it.
How was it?
It's pretty weird. And I mean, but you have to kind of, we all bought into it that, you know, this is going to be weird, so try and contribute in a positive way, you know, to make it work. Otherwise, it would be sterile. And everyone got in the frame of mind of, yeah, let's make it work, you know. So that was cool. The guys come together on it, and it's a great album. We're about to release it very soon.
Good. Well, I hope it just, you know, hope it goes down well with the fans, because I think they'll appreciate that you went through that in this time when you could have sat back, I suppose, and sulked and gone, woe is me, I've got nothing until March next year. It's quite something to be able to say, look, you know, come on, we have to do something. Was there a little bit of that behind it, or was it something you'd always planned?
Absolutely. You've got to reinvent yourself. You've got to reinvent the way you do things. You know, dare I say it, don't look to the government and the authorities. You just got to reinvent yourself. You know, obviously, you know, you can't endanger people's lives, but you still got to reinvent what it is you do. So that's kind of like the attitude we took to it, rather than, as you say, you know, sit back in your easy chair and crack another beer, you know.
Well, I wish I had an easy chair. Oh.
Okay.
A beer.
Bad staff.
Yeah, we're here till 8:30, so you know there's still time. There's still time. Deliveries, all sorts. You never know. And the situation that we're facing now, what would you say to anyone who at the moment is kind of not knowing what to do with themselves and what to do with literally this last week, more announcements that things, close downs, continuation of things as the way they are. What are you saying to people who are maybe saying to you, look, I don't know what to do myself, don't know how to really get through it?
I would say act for yourself, act in your own interest. You know, construct your life how you want to construct it. Because you wait around for people to tell you to do it, you're done for. So you've got to, every aspect of your life you have to reconstruct, you know. And that seems to be the way it is until whenever is. But that's what I would say.
Mm. Thank you.
Hey.
People are going to need it. People are going to need voices from all sorts of different arenas, industries, sectors to round the message home. So thanks very much. Kirk Brandon, everyone. Thank you, Kirk.
Thanks, Thank you.
Great to speak to you.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Great to have you, mate. And what a guitar, by the way. What a guitar. I know very little about them, but that one I know looks pretty darn special. Wow. Loads more performances to come throughout tonight. We will bring you some more live stuff here. We've got loads of stuff back that you've been sending us as well, which might show you in a little while as well. And of course tonight, as James was saying earlier before we lost him on the phone, that sort of 8 p.m. moment tonight is all about the whole lighting up red, showing support, giving a little bit more, how to put it, just your way of saying you're behind the entire events industry tonight and what they want to do and how they want to show that you know, they need that support. They need all those different things we talked about, a different sort of furlough scheme, a different sort of support scheme, a staggered opening scheme for venues, loads of other things to tell you about. Seat out to help out is another thing to tell you about a little bit later on. We've all probably taken part at some point in Eat Out to Help Out. Seat Out to Help Out is a slightly different thing, but if this can pull off, it may just be one of the things that we can try to use. I hear someone's on the phone, which is great. Hopefully is that James again? Hopefully it's James again. James, can you hear me all right?
I can just about hear you.
Okay.
Not very well, but
don't worry.
If you shout, I'll be all right.
I will, don't worry. So before we were talking about the whole movement tonight and what it's building up to, tell us a little bit about your company and how things were affected back in March.
Yeah, so my company, a company called Barclay Red. Now we are an event management agency, and we do a lot of sports, hospitality, incentive travel, lots of sports travel around the world, broadly speaking. So we have quite a broad sort of service offering, and on I don't know, whatever it was, the 23rd of March or whenever lockdown came in, it just shut the industry down. It was just off the edge of a cliff, basically. Revenue went overnight for basically to nothing, and that was the same for thousands of companies in the same space. And we were having to refund a lot of clients a lot of money as well at the same time. So we sort of had that double hit of refunding a lot of money and then no income for the foreseeable future from March. And so that was where we, us and everybody else, that's what we were facing at that time, which was obviously quite concerning and scary at the same time. So it was an interesting period.
How much did you fear the worst at that point?
Say that again, sorry.
How much did you fear the worst at that point?
I think everyone did. I think there was, it's obviously something that no one has come across before, that sort of situation. We've all had sort of peaks and troughs in terms of business, good years, good months, bad months, etc. But this was nothing like that. It was literally, there's no event at all for the foreseeable future and no income. I think everyone was kind of thinking, how on earth are we going to get through this? Because at that stage there was no mention of government support or loans or whatever it was that was going to be put in place to sort of support the whole economy as such. So it was incredibly concerning, and I think there was a lot of people putting their heads in the sand as well, a little bit, hoping that it would be all right come June, so to speak, and we just carry on. But the reality is obviously somewhat different.
So what were you able to do? What have you been able to do?
Well, we did a couple of things in terms of we shifted our sort of marketing and sales focus to 2021. So we basically, within about 3 or 4 weeks of the lockdown in March, we have taken the view that 2020 is a write-off, and we kind of took that view quite early. So we concentrated all our marketing and everything else on 2021 in terms of what's going on then. And we found there was quite a nice market for it, actually. There was a lot of people, especially for the sort of sports travel side. We did a lot of business in F1, the Monaco Grand Prix next year. We found there was quite a nice little market for that, because what we found was during lockdown, people weren't going to the pub, they weren't going to the restaurant, they weren't socialising, and they were building up quite a lot of money from not doing these things. So we were sort of presenting these sort of nice deals, pay monthly, etc. For 2021 stuff, and we actually got quite a nice bit of income coming in that period of time. So that was something that was good. We made use of the government support such that we got a bounce back loan, for instance, and we did a couple of other things, like partnered with a couple of companies outside of the industry whose sectors weren't so affected. We partnered with them and did a bit of marketing for their product, and we got basically a commission or a kickback, whatever you want to call it, for introducing business to them. So we did a few things to keep the income coming in. It's obviously not as much as we'd do in the normal times, but we were having a situation where it was do or die in effect, and that's where we are currently.
I love the out of the box thinking. Good work, well done. Can you tell me a little bit about, I suppose, ground level, people involved? Can you tell us a little bit about how that was, and sort of managing people's worries and staff's worries, I suppose, and all that kind of thing?
I mean, it was, ironically enough, the staff, because the furlough scheme came in fairly soon, we were able to sort of make use of that. So in terms of, I suspect it's the same for a lot of companies, sort of stuff. During that period, during the summer, where people were still getting paid and basically having to sit at home and all the rest of it, it wasn't so much of a worry for staff because they still had an income. Obviously, we were sort of communicating what we were doing in terms of getting revenue in, so that when events do come back, we're in a stage that we're still alive as a company and we're in a good position to make use of it. So in that sense, I didn't feel it was too much of a worry. I'm sure in other companies, there was bigger companies with hundreds of staff, there might have been a lot of us then, have I got a job to come back to? But that wasn't necessarily the case with us, because as I said, we had these sort of 2 or 3 months of decent revenue that has put us in a position now to say that when this does come back, then there are jobs, and we've actually employed in this period of time as well.
Wow.
So it's been slightly different for us. I know other companies have their staff have been, they've either taken the decision straight away to make people redundant, because ultimately if you keep people on furlough for months on end, I don't know where that leads to. It's just kind of you're doing as a favour to your staff, I suppose, that you're going to let go anyway come September, October time. So I know a lot of companies in my industry basically took the decision quite early to cut a lot of staff and just cut their overheads really, really deeply, because I think a lot of people around sort of June, July time saw that this is not going to be over very, very quickly. So to survive, you just have to get rid of as much overhead as you possibly can.
And just coming back to tonight, why was it exactly you wanted to show as much support as possible for what everyone's trying to do tonight?
It's just, I don't think a lot of people quite understand how big the industry is. I shared an infographic yesterday, I think, that sort of showed the sort of breakdown of sectors. It might have been on that post you're talking about. So it's an £84 billion industry. You've got nearly 1 million people employed in it. So it is a massive, massive sector that has basically been just shut down overnight, and it's seemingly sort of cut adrift from any help from the government in terms of calling jobs not viable, etc., etc. So I just wanted to sort of highlight how actually big the industry is and how it affects all of our lives, actually. And I'd be staggered if there was anyone in the country who hasn't experienced a sort of something that has been something to do with the events industry, whether that's going to a wedding or a concert or a festival or gone to a sports event or whatever it might be. All of those things take the events industry to put on. It takes people to put them on and make them happen. So there's this sort of understanding to bring, number one, to the general public, and probably more importantly to government. Say, hey, look, this is a massive, massive industry here, and there are a lot of people whose livelihoods are attached to it. So it's a bit about sort of making that awareness, and maybe the right person sees it in government, I don't know. So it's just, we're just sort of hoping that there is some common sense shown at some point by those in power.
Mm-hmm. The 5 things that are being lobbied for in general are grants instead of loans, an extension to furlough scheme, an extension of the self-employed income support scheme, which would be tailored towards the industry, a change in insurance to help with covering a local lockdown, and also mass testing, these kind of passport for events. Are there any of those that you think are worth pursuing a lot heavier than the other?
I mean, they're all worth pursuing. I don't think anybody obviously particularly knows what's going to work and what's not going to work. A lot of the industry would I think there's a lot of frustration about the sort of logic about the restrictions. And I think if the industry was allowed to open up a little bit so there was some revenue coming through, then that would probably have more help than, say, putting an insurance in place or extending the furlough. Because extending the furlough scheme, whilst it's good for staff that work for the companies, is actually no good for the companies themselves. It will not make a company survive because it can pay its staff. A company can only survive if it has some income coming in. I think there needs to be probably a little bit of a U-turn on what is allowed, because instead, you can go and sit in a restaurant with 100 people. You can go and sit in a pub with 200 people. You can go into an office, etc., etc. But you can't go and sit in a football stadium outdoors, 2,000 people in a 40,000 seat stadium that can be easily socially distanced, locked, very, very safe. The events industry is very, very good at running safe events and keeping to guidelines. So I think there just needs to be almost a roadmap to opening up to get some revenue coming in, because the appetite is there, there's an industry there, and it just needs some common sense approach, which I don't think they've got from this government, if I'm being brutally honest.
James, we won't keep you any longer. We really appreciate you being on with us tonight, and thanks for your support as well and everything you've been doing on social media. Thanks for tuning to us. Appreciate it. Thanks,
no
James.
Worries.
Cheers.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank you. It's James Clutterbuck, who's from Red Berkeley, who, as he said, they've been managing to think outside the box a little bit and find some ways forward, but still a lot to be done. Right, how about another performance for you? We're going to have something from the Indigo Arts charity, who've got a Taylor Swift cover for us. Have a look at this. Yeah, this really is a global movement that we're all part of now. Events all around the world and people of the events industry, creative industries all around the world, aiming to stand as one tonight. It's why you'll see big landmarks and important venues lit up red tonight as part of hashtag We Make Events. This is that big call to say to government that the industry needs more support than it's had over the course of the pandemic, and it needs it pretty quickly. If you want to get in touch about what you do tonight, share a little bit of your story, comment on our feed tonight, whether you're watching us via Facebook or via YouTube. Either way, let us know. Now, I have been told that as part of tonight, I was going to get to interview Boris. So naturally, I said, well, I think a lot of people watching are going to want to know what Boris has got today. So Boris is sitting just to the side of me here. So, Boris, hi.
Hello.
Yeah. This is the first time I've ever interviewed an item of clothing. And I'm excited. The person behind Boris is Wendy Nugent. Hi, Wendy.
Hi.
Tell us where you fit in all of this then. Tell us a bit about you and what you do.
Right, I'm front of house at the Lichfield Garrick Theatre, and it took me 9 months to get the job in the first place because I was going for all different sorts of jobs, pub jobs, trial shifts, interviews, filling in application forms at works, and then in September 2019 I got a job at the Garrick, and so yes, and then in March 2020 I got furloughed. Now my furlough stopped because I'm 0 hours. I don't really want to have to start looking for another job. They say that we've got some work coming in November, but not much. It's going to be reduced hours. I don't know if 0 hours contract is going to be able to get the money from the government again in November, you know.
And there's so many people in the same boat as you, aren't there, who got into whatever position they're in the events industry. It may have been in February 2020, or it could have been further back, but they'll probably be feeling the same way you are now. So where's it left you?
Well, it's like I just have no motivation to start looking for another job. I'm thinking I'll wait to November and see how many hours I get in November, and then December we got like a mini panto. A bite-sized panto.
Oh, there is going to be some kind of panto.
Yes.
Oh, thank God, at least someone's doing something. Thank goodness. So the Garrick and Lichfield, at least they're doing panto.
We're going to do a bite-sized panto, and 1 act, 5 members on stage.
Yep.
That's it. And it's not going to run for as long. But depending what happens, you know, you don't know what's going to happen. Then I think there's a lot more shows be scheduled for January.
You hope the people who traditionally would have, you know, a visit to the Garrick as part of their traditional Christmas experience would hopefully come and be part of that small pantomime at least, you know, because I'm sure that support is out there. I'm sure people want to take part in these things. It's just not been able to put them on.
Yeah, well, I know the people who've actually booked for the panto, they've booked a year in advance. So they've been booking tickets, and I know I was talking to a friend the other day who said that he booked tickets in 2019 for this year's panto. I know.
Yeah.
I've lost the year, the date, the month, the day,
yeah,
and everything.
I know.
And they've managed to let him swap his tickets for this social distance panto now. So
good.
They are coming back.
Now look, I've ignored Boris for too long. I introduced him at the start, and then we put him away. So tell me about Boris.
Right. Well, I've been going on a few Zoom sessions.
Yeah.
And there's one Zoom session on Thursday afternoons, and we had sock making puppet.
Yeah.
And we had to go through a local election and a question time and a manifesto.
Wow.
So Boris gave his manifesto.
How did Boris get on?
He came second.
He came second? Oh, okay. All right.
He lost to Michael Foot.
There was a sock puppet called Michael Foot, obviously. and look, I think it's genius. I think it's a great way of using your time well. You know, some people might say that's what too many Zoom calls does to you. But, it is in a way, because I think we're all a bit tired of those things as much as they are part of our way of life now. So what's Boris touting at the minute?
Well, what I would say was, socks lives matter.
Thanks, Boris. Is that, by the way, is he actually one of your socks?
Was.
Was. So you have one left over now who isn't, and now
He's
it's
going to
Boris.
make another sock puppy out of that one.
You've probably got time tonight to make your own sock puppet and send us some pictures. Most importantly, I'll tell you what we should have done. I don't know if I can. Here you go. Look, the closest thing I could get to red tonight was red socks. So I thought that's my way of going red a bit tonight. But a red sock puppet that you can do at home, stick a couple of buttons on it. Hey, you know, the creative and arts industry is sitting around twiddling their thumbs doing nothing. Let's see some red sock puppets tonight. Why not? I love it.
Boris
It's great.
doesn't also like being put on the spot either.
No, okay, fair enough. Well, that sounds about right. He needs auto cue and preparation, a few ministerial advisors around him. You haven't got a Dominic Cummings puppet, have you, anywhere knocking around?
Or a Richie Sonny.
Well, that sock was with yours, but now it's 250 miles away somewhere else, I expect.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, couldn't help myself. Right, look, more bits from you. I want to hear a little bit more bits from you. I know you've got something to show us in a little while, but first you have a poem?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Tell us about it, tell us why you wrote it, and then you can go for it. Go on.
Well, I just like writing parody songs,
Okay.
but because I don't play an instrument, and because it was all copyrighted stuff, you could only do original
that as
stuff,
well?
I turned it to a poem.
Nice. Okay. Well, you never know. Maybe songwriters watching you want to turn this into a song. God knows we all need a little bit of entertainment relatable at the minute. So, what's it called?
No title.
Untitled.
Untitled.
Okay. As of yet, there's the opportunity to title this tonight. If you do nothing else when you get in touch tonight, have a listen and send us what you think the title of Wendy's poem should be. All right, Wendy, we're ready. Off you go.
Boris says now wash your hands. Is it still 2 metres? Boris says now stay at home, or can we go out now? Boris says go down the pub, but don't drink more than 3 pints. Boris says you cannot shout or sing or dance or hug. Boris says you can travel now, let's fill the town with tourists. Lots of people on the streets, but keep your social distance. Boris says you can go to gyms, use planes and trains and buses. Wear your masks inside the shops, but still there is no theatres.
Thank you. It's cool. And, you know, now's the time to flood us with your ideas for what the title of Wendy's poem should be. Definitely. So, like, I know you said you're a little bit unsure about things going forward. I suppose, you know, the theatre industry as a whole is one that's been particularly hit hard. Have you got other colleagues or other workmates that you're in touch with who've had, you know, are feeling the similar thing at the moment?
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends who are musicians who, you know, I mean, they've been struggling to do live gigs. Normally they play live gigs to packed pubs, you know, but you can't play live gigs to packed pubs now.
No.
And I've enjoyed going to see those gigs as well. I've enjoyed going to open mics, having to sing on the microphone.
And for a lot of these people, I suppose, is this really genuinely their whole livelihoods that's just been stopped? I mean, what have they had to do? What have they been doing? Have they been adapting?
Well, so, I mean, one musician I know, he's managed to get a job in Tesco's shelf stacking, and it's just not right. It's just like, you know, it's just not the same. Your heart's in the industry, you know, the arts industry. To get a shelf stacking job it's not in, you know, you're not going to enjoy it, are you? You're not going to love it.
I'd love to see Tesco, if they have people in, if they know people's backgrounds when they come in and work. Other supermarkets can do it. This isn't just a job at Tesco, obviously. But, you know, if you've got a singer-songwriter stacking your shelves, then use that. I'm all for making use of what you do wherever you are, whatever you're doing. And if I was shopping in Tesco one day and over the tannoy I heard someone playing a bit of live music, that would improve my shopping experience, and it would probably give your man... these are all ideas, these are all things, but who knows? Now, you've got a little video to show us here. Tell us a little bit about this.
Well, once a year, Lichfield Arts puts on the Fuse Festival, which is a free event in Beacon Park. And I spoke to the organiser of the Fuse Festival, and he's done this statement, especially for today, all about what troubles they've been having what challenges they've faced during 2020. Obviously, everything's gone.
Okay, all right. Well, let's have a look at this, and then we'll come back and have another chat with Wendy.
My name's Phil Beale, and I'm a trustee of the music and arts charity Lichfield Arts. Since 1974, Lichfield Arts has brought live music, arts, culture, community and participation events to around 30,000 families and visitors each year from in and around Staffordshire. In addition, each year many young, disadvantaged and vulnerable people benefit from taking part in our associated music and arts outreach programmes. In a normal year, we would by now have run a spring concert series, staged our Fuse and Blues and Jazz music festivals over the summer, started our autumn concert series and be preparing our L2F Festival of Folk. But this year, of course, is very different. Because of COVID, we haven't been able to stage any events since March. This has meant we've had to cancel all our artist bookings, many of whom are dependent on gigs as their main source of income. It's also affected the many support staff we use: stage management, sound and lighting engineers, stewards, catering staff, marketing and so forth. It's meant no engagement with our audiences, volunteers and outreach project participants. For us as a charity, it's resulted in no income since March, yet we've monthly overheads to pay. And finally, it's stifled the important contribution Lichfield Arts makes to the local economy by attracting so many visitors to the city. We are just one example of what's happening right now to the events industry across the whole country. It could be decimated without specific government support. We cannot let this happen, and so urge our government to respond to the We Make Events campaign.
So there we are. Important messages, and really, good to know that people are able to sort of stand up, I suppose, and say how things have gone. And sometimes even putting it out there just makes a difference, doesn't it? Just putting that out there. Have you found that putting it out there just a little bit, telling anyone who'll listen about the situation helps a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is, isn't it? And being in touch with people, even if it's just over a Zoom call. Has that how much has that helped you? Have you spoken to other people and heard their stories?
Yeah, I hear a lot of stories in the creative protest, performers protest, and the We Make events, and a lot of them are struggling. A lot of them haven't been had any furlough pay. I think someone mentioned it before. They've had to. Some people have had to sell their houses, move out.
Wow.
I know.
I want to talk to you about something called Seat Out to Help Out, which I've read about not just today, but in the build up to tonight and everything. There's a petition for this scheme that will allow venues, particularly smaller ones, to begin to take the chance on opening for some productions, which obviously creates that need for income, for money coming in through the door in some way. But I suppose it has to be available for everyone to start with, doesn't it? I mean, do you think, what sort of appetite do you think there would be if the Garrick was able to do something like Seat Out to Help Out?
Well, I think it'll not just affect the Garrick, it'll affect all cinemas, because the Seat Out to Help Out, as they know, what we're doing is we're asking the government to pay the first £10 for each ticket, and each ticket that didn't have each seat that how to describe it. If it's a full cinema,
you can't fill everyone,
can
you? Yeah.
So we wanted the government to pay £10 for each seat that was left empty. I think that's how it worked.
So, a little bit. I know. So, like, obviously, the comparisons have been drawn with Eat Out to Help Out, where there was a contribution to the meal that if you went out, the government paid a certain amount of your food. But I suppose, with cinemas, because the way you have to seat people, can't fill every single seat with a person, so you have to have those gaps, I guess, with whatever the distance, however many seats it is. Is it one seat, 2 seat that would mean the 1 metre distance?
It would be a metre apart.
Yeah.
So I think it's 2 seats between one, but
Okay.
then you're not just going back.
Yeah.
I'm banging the microphone now. That's how badly I feel.
Don't worry, we've dealt with all sorts tonight. We've had leaks in the roof. We've had all sorts of things here. A little bang like that doesn't make any difference. But that
you could be going back as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I'll start going home like Boris.
I don't know whether I'm speaking to you or whether it's the Boris sock coming back.
Shall I
Boris.
put Boris sock
Well,
on?
do you know what? I think, hey, there may be requests to have Boris, the sock puppet, on a few different things over the next few weeks. So I'd keep him handy and keep him clean. You know, put him through the wash every now and then.
Oh, he's been
obviously.
through the wash. He lost an eye through the wash. I had to stick his eye back on.
Oh dear. And has he got his own mask? Is that a face mask I see at the front?
Oh no,
already
he
done
doesn't
on
wear a
the-
face mask.
Oh right, okay.
Oh,
So
he's
Boris doesn't do
Boris. He
that.
doesn't have to wear a
Sorry,
face
I forgot
mask,
that.
does he?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, look, we'd love to see a bit of that. We'd love to see, you know, some more stuff at the Garrick, hopefully, and maybe if See Out to Help Out comes off, the petition for that I think people can find, you know, via all sorts of social media at the moment.
Well, hopefully the Seat Out to Help Out will help out theatres.
Mhm.
I mean, the theatres haven't really seen anything of the 2.5 billion yet, as well.
Mhm.
And to the, you know, they're still not being able to reopen.
Mhm.
The theatres not being able to reopen until 2021. The Garrick is struggling, even though they're a registered charity. They still had to make staff redundant.
It's a lot of hardship probably to come still a little bit more, and it's a shame we're not talking, you know, about things opening up sooner, but things like this hopefully could provide just a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel maybe. Wendy, thank you for coming on. Thank you for your poem. Thank you for bringing your video for us as well tonight. And most importantly, thank you for bringing Boris, the sock puppet.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Boris. Love it. Okay, right, we're speaking of more of our guests shortly, but first off, let's just take a little bit more about what We Make Events is all about.
When you feel like you got nothing left, hold on to your hope, there's better days ahead. We'll get our lives back. See, you're not in this all alone, and we can beat this, we're standing strong. Together we stand as one, with nothing in our hearts but love. We know that this is gonna be tough, so just remember, together we stand as one. 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 Together we stand as one.
Welcome back, and thanks for being with us tonight here as part of tonight's live stream, where we are coming together really as part of the whole We Make Events movement that tonight is seeing venues across the country turning red. If you're anywhere on Twitter or Facebook, you're bound to find it at We Make Events Off for official is their handle. You can find them with the hashtag as well, We Make Events, or as we've been talking tonight as well, hashtag Creative Performance Protest. It's another element of the whole industry coming together tonight and aiming to lobby government into providing a lot more support than there's been for the last 6 months or so. I'm going to go back to the phones now. We're going to head off to Worcester in the West Midlands and speak to Richie Moore. Hello, Richie.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. Good to have you on. Thanks for chatting to us. I suppose start off with just explaining about how you're involved in the events industry as a whole.
So I started out as a DJ on a little radio station, and I do some local festivals around Worcester. And now I DJ and promo live bands for a city centre music venue that's been going about 30 odd years.
So what was the first thing you noticed when that day came in March and everything suddenly started shutting down?
So the Friday when they announced that they were going to be closing after that Friday, we actually made the decision to close on that night. And we were just sat at home sort of twiddling our thumbs, and people were sort of out, but they weren't out, and they were sort of wondering what was going to happen. And we did a live DJ set. There was a couple of us, and we did a live DJ set from from a bar that I've got at home, and we just streamed it onto the page, and there was, I don't know, it was like 25,000 views. So we knew then that things were going to be changing sort of drastically, and then the lockdowns got more severe and stuff. But yeah, that was the first bit that we noticed that the world might not be the same.
So a DJ, a venue really feeds off a crowd, don't they? When you've got that bar packed and you're up there DJing. So how different was it when you were doing it sort of at home, just looking at the laptop?
Yeah, it was weird, but obviously with doing lives rather than pre-recorded kind of stuff, we realised, and doing it through the business page, not through a personal page, we realised that we could get some really good interaction, and people were replaying it a couple of days later. So it sort of started that whole stream for us, and then loads of DJs got onto that and started streaming, and we moved it on a bit and started to do some live music streams. And we've got a really good house band that plays for us, and 8 of them are related. They all live in the same house, so they managed to do like a live set from home with 8 of them, with a full brass section and everything. So we sort of tried to stay ahead of the curve, really. Tried to be a bit maverick.
Yeah, eight in the one bubble is a great find. That's gold stuff, right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us about the sort of feeling you detected amongst other people who worked in the industry alongside you. How much genuine worry and fear was there when things first started?
Yeah, we're an independent venue owned by a couple that have had the business for about 30 odd years, but they've not been running it. They had a managed. It was managed up until about 3 years ago. So they were really new to the industry as well. So that sort of headed us into a direction that they'd never sort of been before in terms of business, but also, we didn't have any direction from a brewery or from a pub chain that was managing us. We were completely on our own. I don't get involved too much in the day-to-day running of it, but I'm told that a lot of the furlough stuff for the staff was okay, but they didn't manage to get any sort of help with the business rates or premises or any of that kind of bounce back loan thing. They weren't eligible for that for whatever reason, and it's been a real struggle. So we've had to try and get some revenue in over the last few weeks and months to try and keep everybody that's sort of in the venue in work.
How much can you understand this idea that people are feeling a little bit abandoned and a little bit unsure of the whole their whole future, let alone the industry's?
The owner says to me every week that we're not hemorrhaging as much cash as we thought we were, we thought we might, but we're still losing money hand over fist every week, and he's having to fund that out of his own pocket, and that's not, he can't carry on with that forever. Some weeks, some weekends are good, but there's still a real nervousness around coming out. And if I'm honest with you, there was a lot of talk about loyalty when we were locking down. Sort of, we were providing a service online for people, and they were like, we're going to support you and all this kind of stuff. And we haven't really seen that yet. We've seen, and for reasons that people just aren't coming out as much as they were. And obviously with the 10 o'clock curfew now, we're essentially a late night venue. We used to go till 3 a.m, so that's hit our demographic really, really hard. People used to come to us because we were a late venue. Now we have to offer something that isn't just about being open late.
That sort of adaptive thinking's been obviously really prevalent in the event industry, especially. Have you noticed anyone else who's done it quite well?
Yeah, I mean, locally there's some nightclubs that have turned to sort of late lounges, and we've tried to make ourselves a venue where entertainment is still on, and that is an expensive thing. What I have noticed is like some of the artists I did think would be a little bit more friendly in terms of how they would charge for things. I don't mean dropping rates or whatever. I've actually seen rates go up massively. is our experience. And so our budget that we used to have for artists is now, it has to be a new budget. It is a higher budget in order to get, live acts. It's quite hard.
And just, help us, bring a bit of awareness, I suppose, to those behind the scenes people like yourself who, as far as promoting and all that kind of work goes on, those people as well at the minute are obviously experiencing such a shortfall with nothing really to turn to, depending on their employment status, if they have a main job, if they're in promoting full time. I mean, stuff like that has just gone, completely, isn't it?
You've sort of hit the nail on the head, but as a person, on a personal note, I had a main job, if you like, in inverted commas, and then this bit was my sort of hobby that earned me money on the side, if you like. And I always thought to myself, if anything happens to our main job, it's fine, I've got something to fall back on. Little did I know that being made redundant from my sales job and losing all the income from this would come at the same time. Personally, promoting this club and their events, I used to get a certain percentage of take and all of that kind of stuff. It's just not there at the moment. So I've not had any money from the venue since we've reopened. I'm just hoping, the first aim was to make sure that we took enough money to keep the staff in jobs, which we've sort of done. It's manageable. The next bit is to try and make some money so that actually some of us can get a little bit sort of, out of it from promoting. I'm just hoping that, we get to a point where we can start earning money again and I can earn a little bit out of it because, I'm not taking any wage or any commission for anything that I've done or been doing for the last few months, but you just got to keep going on because otherwise that's how venues will just disappear.
How much would you say the industry is kind of left in that boat with nowhere else to go? There's no other option now than to try and find whatever means you can to make money because it's obviously not coming from anywhere else.
I think the industry that we're in, everybody's been always, creativity has always been one of the things that that has sort of set our industry apart. I do think there's a lot of entrepreneurs in the entertainment industry, and I don't just mean owners. I mean promoters, and I mean bands, and I mean artists, and I mean everybody has a way of doing it. There's a lot of mavericks that do things their own way. There's also a lot of bars and pubs and clubs that do really well without trying too hard. They just have a good demographic. They have a group. They have a good following, and they don't have to try that hard. They just have to open. And all credit to them. They're obviously doing something right. But I just think if you are a venue that is used to opening late into the night, and that's been your thing, especially now the curfew, you've got to work really, really hard. We're looking at daytime events for Saturdays, daytime events for Sundays.
Yeah.
And you just, the creativity will shine through. People will get creative, and it's a great industry to be in because everybody shares ideas and shares lateral thinking, and hopefully we can all get to a happy medium because there are customers out there, albeit less of them, but there are customers out there, and it's just making sure that we give them something that they want to come out of their houses for.
And I suppose the customers are such a big part of it as well, and hopefully tonight, along with everyone in the industry, it'd be great if I suppose customers, punters can kind of see what we're trying to do to say, look, you need to help support this movement however you can, tonight, whenever you see it brought up on social media, because without it, what you're used to just experiencing on a Saturday night, whenever they come back, could be gone.
Yeah, events like tonight are great to raise awareness, and I think it should then be a springboard for, lots and lots of new awareness around what these people are going through. Sometimes, customers can be a little bit guilty of taking, us for granted. And I think real scene people won't, but I mean, I'm talking about the common or garden customer might just expect that pub or that club or that venue to just, give them entertainment. And when they start to not be there or start to disappear, and having a real think about why that might have happened, not just, it's gone, but why it's gone and, what's there to replace it. Hopefully nights like tonight will be a springboard for people to be lots more aware. I know a lot of the other sort of national campaigns about, the light it up red, paint it red, and all of those kind of things. They all definitely do help. And there was a great feeling around the lockdown shows that we did. Everybody was getting on board. We just need to harness that and take that into the real world so that we can, transfer that feeling out to the customers now.
So there's a little bit of red action to come tonight, about 20 minutes time or so, is where everyone's going to try and light it up red or show us something red. What have you got ready at home that's red?
We've got some red lasers. Hopefully they'll see them over the city. So the kids are quite happy about switching those on. So we'll chuck those red lasers into the sky, and hopefully people will ask me, did I see it? And we can tell them about it and make everybody aware.
Like the bat call, the light going up into the sky, into the clouds. Yeah, love it. Brilliant. Okay, mate. Richie, really appreciate you being on, mate. Good to speak to you. See you soon, all right?
Okay, cheers now.
Nice one. It's Richie Moore, who's a DJ and promoter, talking about his experiences, and I love what he was just saying there at the end, that, the customers do maybe in a way expect just after whatever happens for their local to be back, and there maybe is a chance that some just won't be able to be unless what's being talked about tonight is really listened to in the right places at government. Now, we'll be back with some more live performances soon around here as well, but in the meantime, have a look at some performances we've got here from Fladden.
As our lockless lockdown looks start growing,
It would appear dear Cummings isn't going.
and while we wouldn't judge him ever,
Dick and Dom do
go together. But while Dom's deeds have caused divorce,
Bojo won't throw him under the bus.
when Corona's back to just being a beer,
Will it be Dom who dominates this year?
or will we think of the carers the claps were for?
Or the laps that had us wanting more?
Yes, Captain Tom should be our pick.
To define this time, not to Dominic.
And while it's still a long road ahead,
Just for now, let's think instead
of the acts of kindness far and wide.
Don't let Dominic a sense of pride.
And when we've left COVID behind,
Please don't drive.
if you think you're blind, it began in Wuhan when a man ate a bat. Can you believe that?
It sounds a bit nutty.
The cause of corona, an infected bat butty.
I thought it was soup. So now our nation is in isolation.
Transfixed by Netflix and P with Joe Wicks.
But the big question that everyone's asking,
Did the bat get the bug from that bitch Carol Baskin?
and while we may end up extinct like T-Rex,
It is such a relief to not talk about Brexit.
or any topic that leaves us divided,
Just for a moment,
we're a nation united.
and though we sit idle,
All tired and chubby,
our future less certain,
than Carol killing her hobby,
at least we're together.
or playing our part,
Just don't be a dick.
and have a picnic in the park. Don't be a dick.
No picnic.
When you feel like you got nothing left, hold on to your hope, it's better days ahead. We'll get our lives back. See, you're not in this all alone, and we can beat this, we're standing strong. Together we stand as one, with nothing in our hearts but love. We know that this is gonna be tough, so just remember, together we stand as one. Together we stand as one. Together we stand as one. Together we stand as one.
Hey everyone, we are live streaming tonight as part of hashtag We Make Events and also hashtag creative protests. The creative industry and the events industry tonight are coming together as one to ask the government to help with more support, some support for what they've been through in the last few months, which is seeing their incomes, their livelihoods plummet off the edge of a cliff without anything to help them out. And we've spoken to different people tonight already about the different ways they're involved in events and how much it's affected their lives, whether it was Gemma and her violin classes, whether it was Wendy we spoke to a second ago who works at the Garrick in Lichfield, and how everything's had to stop there and what they're hoping for, but again, keeping everything crossed for at the minute. It's really been really hard to hear about tonight, but the support is there amongst the industry itself. So if you haven't yet shared your story with us, whether it's in the comments on YouTube or Facebook, then be the first. Be one of the ones to let us know exactly who you are, what is it you did, what is it you want to do, what is it you can't wait to get back doing again, whatever it is. Our phone lines are open for your stories as well tonight. 07796 786868 is the number to come on and chat and tell us about you and what it was you were doing before, or what it was you'd like to be doing once again. Now the hashtag We Make Events is pretty big tonight, so let's show you some of the tweets on the board that have been coming through, so you can see so many people there have been getting in touch about the events industry, about this global day of action that everyone's taking part with, and some examples there, some great videos, clips of just back in the old days where we'd go out somewhere and the lights would be going crazy and the music would be loud and we'd all be dancing next to each other, next to strangers. And also tonight you'll see gradually as the events feeds go on, some of the venues that are lighting up red. Now there will be a sort of a time, event as it were, at 8 p.m. tonight where venues are going to light up as part of showing their support. We heard from Becky, who works in communications at the NEC earlier on the show tonight, and she had to kind of shoot off at the end of the phone call because she was going down to the NEC to meet up with some people to sort out lighting up the venue in red, only for a short while, again because of restrictions that are in place on staff, a number of people working at the minute, but they're still going to go ahead and do it. The ICC, part of their group as well, are going to light up red tonight. If you are somewhere or you're close to somewhere that may light up red tonight, let us know, tell us about it. If you know of somewhere that should get a shout out tonight because they've been cut off, because they've been going through tough times, and blimmin' it, they could just do with hearing their name mentioned on a platform somewhere just because, you know, everything's been so quiet for them, then again, let us know. If you want to join in, you can give us a call, 07796 786868. Comments on YouTube and Facebook as well is just another simple way to let us know that you're out there, that you're aware of the different people who are affected by the lack of work and the lack of support for the events industry. We've covered off so many different aspects of that this evening, whether it's been the people who work in weddings, whether it's been the people who work in sporting events, whether it's been the people who work in trade fairs and exhibitions and all of those kind of things that just had to stop straight away. And we mentioned it earlier on as well. We had a chap called Bill Black on, who was our first performer tonight, and he made some really good comments about the people who work behind the scenes. So for every one person you maybe see on stage, even just the smaller gigs, there may be 4 or 5 backstage responsible for who they are, what they're doing and everything that's happening on stage. And those people who are in the shadows are the ones that need to be, you know, everyone needs to be made aware of tonight, not just those of us who find ourselves out front, in front of the cameras, in front of the lights, particularly bright ones. But hey, it's been a while since some of us have been out in front of the bright lights. You know, since March, those of us like me who are hosts and compares who, you know, had the year kind of mapped out in a way with all the different events that we were going to be doing, the things that you'd be hosting, the sporting calendar as it was shaping up nicely with football and rugby, all of a sudden all stopped, and we had to just wonder what on earth we'd be doing, and for a while wondering when the next time we might appear on stage in front of a camera or in front of bright lights had been. Now you might have noticed people adapting. You might have noticed venues adapting. We just spoke with Richie, who's works in venues around Worcester, where they've had to adapt the services they give to online to hopefully continue the support they'll get, and hoping to receive it back now they're open a little bit. Even though they're not a late night venue anymore, they're a daytime venue. It's all very different. Let's jump onto the phones. Let's speak to Zoe. Hello, Zoe.
Hiya.
Good to speak to you. Thanks for being on tonight. So you're a part of a catering company, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So tell us a little bit about how you've been affected since everything shut down.
Okay, so we shut down in March. We've had a few events at one of our venues where there have been no spectators, it's just been competitors. And along with that, we've had 56 weddings move from this year to next year. And we're just heading into the winter with literally no work now until March next year.
So what have you had to do, or what can you do? Have you been able to do anything about it?
Pardon?
Have you been able to do much about it?
No, literally nothing. It's people don't want to pay like a venue cost, and only have like say 30 to 15 guests. They just don't want to pay that. So everybody's postponing in the hope that they can go ahead next year.
It's another thing that people don't think of, I suppose. That's a really good point you make there, actually. It's all very well the government saying you can have 15 people or 30 people at your wedding so it can still go ahead, but I suppose that in some cases the number of guests doesn't affect how much a venue might charge to hand it over to someone for a day.
Yeah, so some venues are like, £10,000, and you're not going to pay that for 15 people.
Definitely not. Well, I don't have any friends that be able to do that, unfortunately. I know that. So tell us a little bit more about sort of how things were looking up until March for you, and which
so we had a really exciting year. It was going to be our busiest year in about 6 years. Obviously, we had all the events at Shelsley Walsh Hill Climb. We had all the weddings, and we were in for kind of a record-breaking year for us. We'd taken on new staff, we've recruited new staff, and now there's just the two of us left. So there's just Graham and myself just toddling along, trying to get through to next year.
And how is it day to day at the moment, trying to work out how just to navigate the landscape?
Day to day, it's very quiet. There's not a lot going on. There's a lot of people seeking reassurance, and for us, we haven't got that reassurance. So it's just very quiet, and it's not anything that either of us are used to.
Did you at any point when it first happened kind of automatically assume, or at least sort of try and take some comfort thinking, well, we're a big industry, we're this, we're that, surely there will be some kind of support for us?
Yeah, we did think. I think we thought that it wouldn't be as bad as it is, and I think we thought that there'd be a lot more support out there, and that we'd have some answers by now. Mm-hmm. But we just haven't got these answers, and there's no clear message, and every announcement that gets made, it isn't very clear about what's going to happen for the events industry in the future.
And as part of today and the movement, the hashtag that's running, the turning venues red and all that kind of stuff, what's the thing you're hoping for most out of it? Is it financial support? Is it extension to schemes? What is it?
I think it's financial support. I think it's extension to schemes, and I also think it's just awareness that there are, some businesses are flying in this situation, but there are businesses that are really, really struggling and looking at, how can we survive? And I don't want to let anybody down for their big day, but it's really, really hard to see where we go forward.
Tell us about a few of those other people, fellow colleagues you have, other people in and around the industry, about just what you know about other businesses and how they've been coping.
I think we've seen 7 or 8 wedding venues go like bust. Some other wedding caterers have just completely shut down and aren't doing anything, and they've just put a hold to everything. I've lost all my colleagues because they've all chosen to to, you know, leave and go and get other jobs because they saw that, you know, it was going to be a long slog and they didn't want to not work.
Did you ever think about that?
Yeah, and I have at times thought, well, I'm going to need to go and get another job because I'm not going to have a job. But it's still hard because at the same time, you know, I've got wedding clients for next year that need that support now, like they would have on any normal occasion, because at the moment they need to act like their weddings and events are going ahead.
Do you think it's going to be easy for people to kind of take a few of these different events industries for granted?
Yeah, very easy.
And
I think, you know, it's so, you know, a wedding's an amazing day, but I think we do take that massively for granted.
So, what are you thinking short term and long term? Because I suppose if you're in the business every day, if you're looking for some sort of way out of it, have you got any kind of thoughts or plans that will be your way out of it?
It's a difficult one. I think we know we're going to have, you know, there's not going to be anything this side of Christmas, and there's probably not going to be anything up till March, and we've come as a company to realise that that's what's right. But I think we need some reassurance about when we're going to be able to have weddings again, and, you know, or how events are going to go forward, and when people are going to be able to have birthday parties. There needs to be, you know, I know it's one of those questions that the government haven't got, but at the same time, they must have an idea.
Well, Zoe, thanks for your call tonight. Thanks for your support as well for the whole We Make Events thing and the whole turning venues red and all that kind of stuff. What have you got on your house that's going to go red?
What was that, sorry?
What have you got around your house that's going to go red? Anything turning red tonight in your way?
Nothing. Well, I've got a red Whitley Neal bottle that'll turn red with some fairy lights.
Beautiful. Great stuff. Zoe, thank you very much. Good to speak to you.
No problem. Thank you.
Zoe Whitehouse, she's from Brooks Catering, another one of those that I suppose you just assume kind of turns up when you have an event, and another one affected by everything that's going on at the minute. More people to chat to tonight, of course, things turning red around 8 o'clock this evening, but you'll see loads on social media. We'll tell you more about that in a little bit when we come back.
One, go.
Hi there, Norman aka Dapper Rapper here with my open letter to the government. Dear government, I hope you're well. Do you like the arts? Because I can't tell. When you walk along the South Bank, what do you see? A people's paradise for art or wasted property? You and your gang, you don't need to furlough. Making a fortune as you swig the Merlot. You say you act in good faith, but something's smelling fishy when the poor get poorer and the rich get rishy. Dear government, I hope you're well. Do you like the arts? I just can't tell. You could have bunged a few quid to the RSC. Instead, the money in your bucket went to KFC. It's like you don't really care about the arts of our nation, because your real line managers, the banks, the corporations. I got a hunch. Now, look, I'm not being funny, but seems sometimes all you really care about is power and money. Dear government, I hope you're well. Do you like the arts? I still can't tell. It's called Department of Digital Media, Culture and Sport, but it feels like the arts are being sold short. You've dented health and education, perhaps it's the turn of the arts. Your stats for wrecking all you touch are way off the charts. I swear, if the forces of darkness ever held a meeting, they'd vote your gift to make a shambles as truly world-beating. Dear government, do you actually exist? Or have the zombies taken over in a third act twist? Because you're saying global Britain is simply the best, but to the rest of us it feels more like the Mare Celeste. That's all for now. I hope I state my case clearly. P.S. Praying for a miracle. And I mean that. Yours sincerely.
When you feel like you got nothing left, hold on to your hope, there's better days ahead. We'll get our lives back. So you're not in this all alone, and we can beat this, we're standing strong. Together we stand as one, with nothing in our hearts but the love. We know that this is gonna be tough, so just remember, together we stand as one. 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 Together we stand as one.
Hi everyone, welcome back. So it's just gone 8 o'clock, which means very soon social media will start filling up with messages, including the hashtag #WeMakeEvents and also the hashtag Creative Performance Protest. And the hashtag #WeMakeEvents, WeMakeEvents.com have been the company, the website behind this whole movement about supporting the events industry through these tough times and lobbying for more support, the support they need to make sure they're here when it's all over. Because as we've been hearing tonight, a lot of people genuinely fear for different types of businesses, different venues, different events that may or may not be back when things are all over. And they will be all over. They will at some point. Now, behind me is something really incredible that we've got here in our studio. It's a very special, unique, one-off little item. And it's been designed by a lady called Alexandra, who works at the RSC. And this poster, "Now is the winter of our discontent, save the theatre jobs," is, I think, a really nice way of displaying that feeling about theatres and everything about them that needs saving. We were talking to Wendy earlier on, who works at the Garrick in Lichfield, about just about being able to get a panto on this year, but, you know, 6 people, all socially distanced, trying to do that performance. It's not the Puss in Boots we know, is it? So all those different things need thinking about. And something like this is a really cool message. And actually quite powerful as well, I think, at the same time. Now is the winter of our discontent. It's a common phrase that's thrown around, and probably up until this winter, you know, with a bit of jest for people, but this genuinely will be a winter of discontent for a lot of people, not just in the theatre industry, but in all sorts of other bigger industries as well, ones that we've chatted to tonight. DJs, venues, venue owners, huge places like the NEC and the ICC who have seen things drop off. So there's a lot to consider tonight. So whilst you're here on social media, get an eye on Twitter or Facebook and see that hashtag #WeMakeEvents and just see the number of people and see the stories, and also see the incredible sights we're seeing tonight where venues and places across the country and around the world are going red as a symbol of support. Now, our little shindig we've got going on here tonight isn't just thrown together, and before you say, oh, it looks like it, it's not. There's been a good bit of planning stuck in, and I want to, if I can drag him from being around backstage there at the minute, speak to James, who's kind of put this all together very last minute. James, are you coming to join us all the way around? Okay, I'll come up and find you up there. So it's just nice to get a bit of movement going, really. Been in the same place for a long time. Right, James, why be part of this tonight? Why put on this live stream?
Why not, I suppose, is the first thing. It's really important to us. I think we have an amazing industry. We have the people that do a lot of hard work all over the world, not just here in the UK, but with the UK, it's where we're based, and it's an amazing opportunity to showcase what we should be doing. And of course, times are hard for everyone right now, but it just seems to have the whole industry shut down with no help or no support or anything. It's just absolutely crazy, and there's a lot of people suffering right now. So it's the least we could do to be part of it and to try and help out, really.
Just tell us a little bit about sort of your company and all the stuff you were doing before.
Yeah, pre-COVID, we're an event company mainly called UK Event Services. We do anything from corporate events through to outdoor festivals. We've got outdoor festival stages, LED screens, all the usual kind of outdoor event kit. Most of our summer we spend travelling from field to field with different festivals, living on site in tents, caravans, all the kind of usual stuff. Really.
Yeah.
And it's kind of well, obviously that all disappeared this year. We do a lot of Halloween attractions as well, and themed attractions through the other side of our business. That all got cancelled this year. Firework events, Christmas light switch-ons, all those kind of things got cancelled, which then led us to this place, really. And during the lockdown and coming out of lockdown, it was the one way we could do to help. During the lockdown, we were running games for people on Facebook and just doing kind of charity events and that kind of thing, really, to try and keep morale as high as we could while everyone was locked down. And since then, now we have the studio to use on a more permanent basis, really.
I asked it to Zoe a minute ago, and I'll ask you as well. Did you think that, as things like the furlough scheme and all of that was announced, did you think, oh well, there's bound to be something to help the events industry? Why wouldn't there be?
I didn't feel we had to have something. Obviously, at the end of the day, I completely agree with the government. They can't help everybody, and at the same time, everyone does need a bit of support, and it did feel that at some point maybe something might come along to help, especially those with employees that have been on furlough scheme. As I said, we're unfortunate, as many event companies are, that what do we do at the end of October? The new scheme it works, but only if you've got an income, and within our industry there's not a lot of companies that've got an income right now, and I think that's the tricky part, really. And I think as much as, yes, we shouldn't feel entitled to it, because at the end of the day there's a lot of people out there that do need help and support, but I think they need to rework how that support's given, and need to look at the industries that just aren't able to operate at the moment due to their social distancing regulations.
Those kind of 5 things that We Make Events are asking for, I'll just run through them for anyone who's missed them already tonight, because these are a key part of what We Make Events are trying to lobby the government for. So grants, not loans, and made available to those businesses in the event supply chain, and that supply chain is a real key part of that, isn't it? Furlough scheme extended until the industry is back to work. Extension of the SEISS, the Self-Employed Income Support Scheme, which would be in theory tailored to the industry, which it isn't obviously at the minute. Then this insurance for live events to be covered if a lockdown stops one, and then finally this the sort of passport for events, the medical passport, the testing there and then. Which of those, if any, do you think is maybe most likely, or the one that would make the biggest difference?
They're all valid points that would really help the industry. I think support for all those companies that have got staff still on furlough, as I said, that aren't able to earn an income because of the social distancing restrictions. It's one thing saying a business isn't viable, but as we've proved time and time again across the industry, a lot of us all had viable businesses before going into COVID. The only reason it isn't viable now is because the social distancing regulations and the fact that, you know, we try and put on events. For example, in August we did an outdoor cinema and live music venue in a car park. It was a drive-in event. It was attended by a lot of people locally. It was a big success. But you try doing that now with the councils, and don't get me wrong. There's valid reasons again while restricting people, but if it's outdoors, if it's socially safe, if it's been proven to be COVID secure, then I don't see why the councils aren't being a bit more creative and thinking out of the box to actually help those event companies try and make an income. Because at the moment it's only not viable because we're not allowed to kind of do the events and not allowed to go out there and do things. So I think if we're not allowed to do it because of the councils, then we are going to need support from the government, because we can't operate, we can't do anything.
What do you think, is the future going to look different, or do you think it can return to something like we all used to know?
I'd love to think it's going to go back to normal, and that whole "this is the new normal" kind of thing.
In a dream world, we'd be bumping into each other at West Brom before a match day in the fan zone with the screens and the stage and all that. This looks like a lot of that stage. Is this the same?
Funny enough, it's not being used there at the moment. So
I thought it was. Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think there will be a new normal. There's no doubt about it. There's operating procedures. There's the way people live, the way people work, the way you only have to walk into a shopping centre with their one-way systems and everything else. Yep. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Same on the event circuit. I think the days of 10,000, 20,000 people all stood shoulder to shoulder, it's not going to be back next year. It's going to take a good few years to get back to that. But thinking creatively, there's ways around it. We can do smaller areas. We can do more stages in different places. We can do social distancing. But I think it just needs a bit of a think tank there to rework it. I'd love for it to go back to it, and I hope and pray it someday we can get back to those big festivals, because the atmosphere, there's nothing like it. But I think for the next few years at least, I think it's here to stay, and we need to find ways, both with the government and also as a company, to kind of make those events still happen, because there's still a want and need for it. There's still people sat at home thinking, I'm missing live music, I'm missing theatres, I'm missing going to a club. We need to just find a way that works safely for everybody, but also enables us to earn a living, so that everyone can earn a wage, pay their bills, and the government can have their lovely taxes.
Oh, don't forget the big T word. Don't forget everyone's favourite T word. So just coming back to tonight, we'll have a look at social media in a little while and just see the number of places, the number of people that are all out sharing stories. How good do you think it's going to be tonight for everyone else, including government, but just everyone on the whole, the people who are the punters, the people who are the customers, to see this huge industry coming together?
I think, hats off to all the teams behind the scenes, to We Make Events, the creative performance protest groups, and every other group out there. I know Excluded UK are out there as well. There's so many groups within the creative industries at the moment, all helping and functioning as a team and producing stuff, not only in the UK, worldwide. You only have to look at the We Make Events website to see all the tweets coming in from places across the world. It's everybody is joining together and working as a team, which is, the industry does that the best. And whether you're security, whether you're a stagehand, whether you're a cleaner, whether you're the artist, whether you're sound and lighting, everyone works together within the industry, and that's the great thing about it. And despite no one really making an income at the moment, despite everyone spending more on bills than they're actually bringing into the company, we're still out there doing things. We're still lighting up buildings, trying to kind of highlight the cause and bring joy to people seeing those buildings as well, and knowing that we are still here as an industry, and we're trying to fight on.
We'll take a look at that shortly, but mate, thanks for your words. Thanks for your thoughts.
Usually I'm stuck behind the desk.
I was going to say, it's very rarely. I feel very straight, because I was saying again, because this is definitely the West Brom stage. This is where I'd normally be standing on a match day when the fan zone was a thing and talking about it, and James would be running around by the side. So this is happening, and it's just, don't you just miss that buzz though? Don't you miss those days?
Yeah, definitely. I must admit, there was a good thing about when we did do the drive-in venue a few weeks ago. It was our first event of the year since all COVID kicked off, and despite the torrential rain, the 2 storms that hit us while we were out there, the floods, you name it, everything that could hit us in those 3 weeks did. But you know what? I wouldn't have changed it for the world. It was the best thing ever, and just to get back out there and do it, it brought it all back, and hopefully it won't be too long before we can all get back to doing some sort of events like that again.
Too right, mate. Thank you. I would keep it here forever, but I kind of need you
That's it,
to go back over there.
And also, can I just say,
and sort the next bit out.
Thank you to Twitch and Jordan as well, who've been here behind the scenes. It's not just me taking all the credit for everything. They've helped kind of build it, put it back together, and wire it all up while I've sat in the corner eating chocolate, that kind of thing. So it's been a team effort here today.
I was going to get him, by the way, just to make sure, talk about the team and talk about the support behind him and everything.
That's it. There's no I in the team, that's for sure. Right, I'll go.
Thanks. Yeah, go over there. Let's get ready to shout something at me to say that's what we're going to do, because that's how it's all been running tonight. It's been perfect. Look, there's a little bit more to see, obviously, before we go. But whilst you've got us on as well, then make sure you get on social media and just see that we make events. And if you want to talk about someone who has been affected, or you want to share a story, the easiest thing you might be able to do tonight is just see one person's thing and just retweet it, or just share it on Facebook, and it just spreads the word that little bit further. And you just don't know who's going to see what tonight and how much they're going to see of it, because the more they see of it, the more it makes some noise tonight. And I know we're amongst all sorts of other people trying to make some noise and say we've been excluded. James mentioned Excluded UK there, who are a big part of the self-employed and the freelance economy as it is for a thing. Then those people need as much attention as the people in the events industry and all that kind of stuff. So James, what's happening? Videos.
Indigo Arts, Ain't No Mountain.
Ah, brilliant. Indigo Arts. We saw their Taylor Swift performance earlier on tonight. Let's get something else in them with Ain't No Mountain High Enough right now. Thank you, James.
Now if you need me, call me, no matter where you are, no matter how far. Don't worry, baby, just call out my name. I'll be there in a hurry. You don't have to worry, 'cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no valley low enough. Ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, babe. Remember the day I set you free? I told you you could always count on me, darling. And from that day on, I made a vow I'll be there when you want me, somewhere somehow. Baby, ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no valley low enough. Ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, babe. And no wind, and no rain, oh, winter's cold can't stop me, baby. Oh, baby, 'cause you are mine. If you're ever in trouble, just send on the ground. My love is a lie deep down in my heart, although we miles apart. If you ever need a helping hand, I'll be there on the double, as fast as I can. 'Cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no valley low enough. Ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, babe. Ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no valley low enough. Ain't no river wide enough to keep me from you. Ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no valley low enough. Ain't no river wide enough to keep me from you.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We're here for about 5-10 more minutes just to help with the last push tonight to say if you are here to support the events industry, you're part of the events industry, you're part of the creative industry, then make sure you're following the hashtag WeMakeEvents and Creative Performance Protest. And we said it was about 8 o'clock tonight that was when the big push was going to come, all the images of the red buildings and red venues lit up. And we've seen quite a few. You can have a look at the board now just to see a few more of the tweets that are coming in and people who are getting involved in those hashtags. It's hashtag WeMakeEvents and hashtag Creative Protest is where you can see all the people involved in the industry and whatever level as well. Just talking about all the various buildings, not just in the UK, but around the world that are being lit up. There's the Make Events guys in Northern Ireland taking part. Everyone from people behind the scenes, people on stage. Loads of people tonight have shared their tweets from the events industry within the UK and worldwide of different buildings around the world lighting up red. And that's been a big theme of tonight. So well done to everyone who's taken the time to find the ways to light their building up red. Even if, and I know some people are just sending out videos of their venues or pictures of their venues with the red tint on, with the red filter on. It can be something as simple as that. You can still take part in it as well. If you've got friends in the events industry, if you're part of the events industry or the creative industry, then use that hashtag WeMakeEvents. Put on a red top, put on a red t-shirt and just send us your picture and say why you think it's so important to support the events venues and the events industry as a whole tonight, because so many people have been doing it. People at WeMakeEvents have been doing it as well. The website's actually quite good if you haven't been on WeMakeEvents.com, not just to explain a little bit more about how the campaign has started and what it's become now, but also a little bit about the background as well, and a little bit about the industry as a whole, so you can see just how much of a financial hole this whole COVID thing has left. Now, here you'll see behind me some of the different sectors that have lost money as a result of COVID. And we've heard from a few of them tonight. Heard from Becky at the NEC about exhibitions and trade fairs. £11 billion lost there. 3 billion alone just within the NEC group, Becky was telling us. And that's quite a sizable chunk of that 11 billion from the UK. Conferences and meetings, £18.3 billion. It's an astonishing figure. Elsewhere, places like music events. Look at the size of that figure. It's the second biggest of the lot, £17.6 billion by all those music events that aren't on tonight, that aren't taking place now, that haven't been able to do stuff over the summer, won't be doing stuff for Christmas or New Year, and maybe not even until March next year. Sporting events, almost £10 billion lost through sporting events. And we know that's going to affect smaller clubs more than bigger clubs around the country. So many of them at the minute, you'll have heard about the plights they've suffered since the idea that people would be tested, that people would be, events venues would be tested, they could have events where a certain number of people would be able to come. Can't do that now. More of that money is going to disappear. Weddings as well. £14 billion lost by there not being any weddings. And as Zoe was saying earlier on, we spoke to Zoe who works at Brooks Catering, who was saying that one thing you don't think about when a wedding is rearranged or when someone says, well, you can have 15 people or as it was 30 people at your wedding, go ahead. It doesn't mean the venue costs any less to hire out. They can't give you, if you're having a quarter of the guests, a quarter of the room or a quarter of the space. It just doesn't work. The fees still have to be there to cover that. So, and as Zoe rightly said, why would someone want to pay a huge venue hire fee if they can only have 15 guests at the venue? It's just not going to happen, and that's the kind of thing that's added to that figure. £14 billion lost in Wendy. It's been quite scary and quite something to see these numbers as we have done tonight. That big one, £84 billion lost as a result of COVID for our events industry throughout all these different sectors and others we've been speaking to tonight as well. It's just really quite downheartening, which I think is why we've seen a big drive behind WeMakeEvents and everything that we're seeing tonight. All the people tweeting, all the people getting in touch, people have involved in all sorts of different sectors. Let's speak to someone else on the phone just before we finish up tonight. This is John Dazelle from the Midlands. Hello, John.
Hello, mate. You okay?
Very well. Just give us a brief sort of idea of how the events industry is part of your life.
So full-time at Hursty, how we got to know each other is through radio. I've been doing radio since I was about 13, and obviously comes with that are jobs in events and live situations. So I am the announcer for Coventry City Football Club, the Coventry Blaze. I've DJ'd at many clubs. I've hosted many live events, and yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare at the moment, isn't it?
It is. It really is. When things first happened in March, what was your initial thought? When did you think, well, I can take the hit, it's okay, we'll carry on, or was there kind of a bit of a genuine fear straight away then?
Do you know, I must admit, Hursty, I've been quite lucky in that, you know, I've got the breakfast show that I do on free radio, and that's continued throughout lockdown. I've still been going into the studio. I think the first moment it hit me was when the Coventry Blaze decided that they would no longer continue. The Elite League decided that they would cancel the whole season, and the ice hockey teams across the UK hadn't actually finished their season. So that was the first gig to go, and that's an event for me every Saturday or Sunday throughout the season. And then obviously the football went, and if there's no football, they don't need an announcer. And then all the live stuff went, so the nightclub stuff, the award stuff. And I have to say, you know, the self-employment grant has been a massive help. But I think we all at one stage thought that this would pass and we'd get back to some normality.
Yeah.
And obviously in the recent update, we've been hit hard, and literally the whole of Christmas and all the events that I had penciled in from now until, well, January has completely gone.
So, look, you mentioned football, you mentioned those events, you mentioned all those things that suddenly dropped off, and I know they're starting to come back now, but you're probably the same as me, I think, at West Brom at the minute. Without crowds there, there's no need for you and I to be there sort of warming the crowd up and welcoming the team out. What are you missing the most?
I miss the live stuff, mate. You know, as much as I absolutely love my radio show and my radio job, I miss interaction at work. First off, there's nobody there, everybody's working from home, but I just miss that live feeling. I feed off a crowd. It's one thing that gives me an absolute buzz. And like you say, you know, although the football is being played at the moment, there's no fans, so there's no need for an announcer. And I probably like you, mate, I just miss that live connection with an audience, with a crowd. And one thing I was really looking forward to was hosting all the events at Coombe Abbey in Coventry over Christmas. You know, we do an amazing event for hundreds and hundreds of people, and literally as of yesterday I got the phone call to say that's now not happening. I'm gutted.
Wow. So and this is the thing, isn't it? It's just when we thought we took that initial hit, March, April, it's like, I was going to use the phrase second wave then, sorry. God. But you know, it's kind of, these things are happening again. Now we get towards the busy season that's Christmas.
Yeah, and for people like you and I, and people in the industry that we work in, you know, we are heading into what for a lot of us is our busiest time. Whether you're a performer, an actor, singer, you play an instrument, you know, this is essentially our lead up to the busiest time, and actually it's going to be the quietest time in my whole career, if I'm honest.
Have you, look, I'll keep trying to dig out positives. I thought about this earlier with my mate Richie, the DJ from Worcester, who was on. Are you getting a bit more sleep at least?
I am getting more sleep. And you're right, you know, although it's not a great time for us, you know, you have to try and look at a positive. And for me, if I'm honest, Rich, I've worked pretty much 6-7 days a week since I got into the live industry, if you like, the radio and the clubbing and the announcing. So I'm going to take it a positive, and I'm going to make use of my weekends. I'm going to work on my own business. I am going to connect with people that I haven't connected with for a while. Those people that you keep putting off the coffee because work gets in the way, I'm going to make a conscious effort to do that. So you're right. You know, if we can get a positive from it, that's what I'm going to do. Nice.
Well, mate, my diary's pretty empty as well at the minute. So
yeah, I'll be able to Worcester to see you. Don't worry.
JD, thanks for being on tonight, mate. Appreciate it. And, you know, in amongst all the tough times, it's great to hear a nice little bit of Positivity
And
trying
also,
to come
I just
out
wanted to add, Rich. Do you know what I really like, and you can see it on social media tonight through what you're doing, is that we've all got each other's backs. We're all looking after each other, and another positive, if anything, it's brought us closer together, and we just need to keep supporting each other, especially in a time where mental health is such a big thing. We need to encourage each other and get through this together.
Well said. Thanks very much. JD in Coventry, thanks for being on, mate. Good to speak to you. Have a good night. Simple as that. Look, that's about it from us tonight as well. Thank you to everyone who's been on just to tell us about how they feel about things, what they hope for and what they're kind of clinging on to at the minute. It's a little bit of a story like that, but if you look at the size of the movement tonight, you go away and look at social media for the next 20 minutes or so and see the number of people who are getting involved with things turning red and telling their stories. Hopefully it makes the right impact tonight. So thank you to you for being with us tonight as well. Oh, there's a message to read out. Oh, I have it here. Oh, I love this. Oh my Lord. How long have we got?
Sorry.
Okay, no, do you know what? We can do it. We can do it. Okay, all right. This is the closest you get to a little bit of storytelling from me. So Adrian Hughes, who's at Jams Productions, sent us a message and a half. So here it is. It says, "Hi everyone all involved in the live stream." And I've not pre-read this, so, you know, I like this, seat of the pants. "I've been in events now since 1992. I started, as many of us has, as a DJ and then branched onto DJ for some huge corporate and celebrity events nationwide and abroad in Europe. I then moved into sound and lighting and hire and then event managed awards dinners, large corporate events from conferences to charity balls. The list is endless. This year, during COVID, it's been hard. So hard, in fact, for the first time in my life, it's affected me mentally. My family and friends have been amazing and helped me through it, keeping me busy. I have a business unit, utility bills, accountancy bills, event equipment and insurance, and it constantly keeps going out. It's even mentioning things like the vans, our private family cars, mortgage and food for my family. On paper at the start of the year, we had so much work on the books and it was set to be an amazing year in business. But then COVID struck and every job got cancelled. What hurts is that many units and businesses around me have had more financial support than ourselves, and even still have been told they can get more support in forms of grants, not loans. It feels that if you're working, you are worth supporting, but as we are not, we're not viable, according to our government. It's great to see France and other countries are supporting their event sector, as once all this is over, we can get some form of normality back. That we're desperate to see live shows, go to theatres, go to weddings that have been postponed and be entertained, or our country will be entering a state of depression. Our government has U-turned on nearly everything they've done, and I pray that they U-turn and realise that what they did to the whole of the industry and those decisions made another big mistake. I 100% get that we cannot work and open fully at some areas and not at all, but what I do not get is that we're being totally ignored. What's criminal is that as a director, I was unable to even advertise my business to let people know we are still able to do conferences when we are viable, but to do that, I had to take myself off furlough. It's classed as earning money, even though we've not had any work since March. We're desperate to get back to what we do. Lots of people say to me, just get a job. Why does your sector need more money? When I explain they all use us, they say we don't, and I reply, what, so you've never been to a wedding? Ever been to a pantomime? Ever been to a live show, a concert, a festival? But you've watched live shows on TV like Britain's Got Talent or X Factor, but you've enjoyed dancing at a birthday party. And that's just a small part. When they say yes to all of those, I say, well then, you do use our services, and those services might not be around in 2021. This guy says, I've emailed my MP several times and heard nothing, and recently emailed another member of our council and heard nothing. And as a Redditch business, to hear nothing back from our MP feels again like a criminal act. They're fine when they're taking our money, but we've been actually needing their help. We feel like we've been ignored. It feels pure criminal. Thanks to James and everyone for doing this show tonight. It's been great. We are desperate to get back to what we do because we are viable and we make events. It's from Adrian and Jenny at Jam Productions. Some great points and really well written. Thanks guys. And thank you so much for listening tonight. Thanks for being part of it. Thanks for your social media messages and things you shared with us. The main thing that We Make Events want to make possible are these 5 things they would love to have. Grants, not loans. The furlough scheme being extended until the industry is back to work. Extension of the self-employed income support scheme, which could be tailored towards the events industry. Insurance for live events, complete with a COVID clause to help promoters and event organisers be protected should a show or show be cancelled due to a local lockdown. And the ability to allow event organisers to do mass testing on behalf of the UK government that might give some form of 72-hour passport for events. One of those 5 things could make a big difference. All of them could mean that everyone we know and every single person we know in the events industry right now that is really at the end of their tether could be back to work and doing what they love again very, very soon. So we really hope so that any element and part of tonight has helped for that. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching. My name is Rich Hurst. I've been delighted to bring this to you tonight, and hopefully many more bits and bobs in the future as we celebrate a bit of success and the campaign picking up some real momentum with the people in government. Just remember, we make events, so please make sure we're still around soon. See you later.